go. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Public Access America. My name is Jason. His name is Jeffrey, and we get together every week to talk about the week. We did take a week off, which gave us like a 2 week break. We had some amazing clip shows to fill in for that, and I love the clip shows. We actually got to feature the LGBT discussion with Earkick, and that was so cool. I'm so excited about that. I'm just so pumped to have you here, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Let's settle down.
It definitely it was nice to have a little break, especially with Stranger Things 4 coming out.
Fuck yeah.
And so we ended up, trying to marathon the whole thing.
Nice. In one big
And
cuddle puddle.
essentially, and then like on the morning after we watched the first few episodes, my oldest was like, I want a Stranger Things breakfast. I'm like, okay, well, what is
Ah,
that? Egos. I want Egos. I'm like, okay.
nice.
So I did like Egos and, eggs and sausage links, and
Mm,
I made homemade hash browns, and
mm.
it was just like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do
How
a
do you
Stranger
make
Things.
how do you make homemade hash browns?
So you can do this the easy way, which is you get a food processor and you take a potato and you just have it grate the potato,
Hmm.
and then it's literally just oil and a frying pan.
For a while, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay.
Or you do it the way that I did it, and then you try to use a cheese grater to start with, and you end up slicing the shit out of your thumb and your
Mm.
finger, and then you get real pissed, and then you decide to use I always forget what it's called, um, a mandolin, in order to
Yeah.
try and do that, and it didn't work out as well as I wanted it to, so I got pissed and I ordered an attachment for my KitchenAid mixer so that way I don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
That's beautiful. We got a mandolin for our wedding present, and my wife was like, I don't know how to use it. And I was like, it's easy. You just, scrape it across and she wanted to do cucumbers and she sliced off half her finger in the process. I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, these are scary things. But I always learned like you had to soak the potatoes, which kind of defeated the purpose of like drying them out to fry them. So I never could get that right?
Yeah. No, so I mean, I think, everybody likes that. You have to remember, like, all that bagged stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they have almost perfected their process. And then basically if you get, soggy potatoes, that's pretty much on you.
Right.
But there's something to be said about just making homemade hash browns and
Agree.
knowing that the only ingredient is the potato that you've peeled, and whatever oil of choice that you use, and then salt and
Mm-hmm.
pepper or whatever seasonings you want to add. There's no preservatives. The potato sits until you need it to potato, and
Yeah.
that's the beauty of
That,
it.
that's my life is working towards knowing what's in my food. I just found that my rice cooker has a like a steamer thing that I can put on the top and fill it with like the broccoli and then
Hmm.
cover it and have rice and broccoli. I was like, oh, I love this. And
Yeah.
I should tell you that our food conversations are actually one of the most popular parts of the show. I talked with Kai. We recorded last night to give me a little bit of a setup. And by the way, unsubscribe. Kai has a new show out, so go check that out called Girls. And Bottled Up Bitches just started season 2, and that's a really good show. And Mood Ring, I just discovered, which is really amazing. But Audio Pong has a new episode out, and they talk to an
Nice.
actor about personas and getting into the business and surviving in it. And Marco,
Yeah.
that's some really awesome stuff. But Kai, she actually incorporated what we talk about, and she also does exercise with it. But the like just the food, she told me you said like sugarless oat milk, and I was all ears. And she's like, "Can I have your hummus recipe?" And I was like, "Wow, people." It changes people when you start eating right and taking care of
Hmm.
yourself and prioritizing yourself. It changes people, and that's what I always hoped this
Yeah.
show would do.
Like, and I started making some very serious changes, and what ends up happening is, I dropped 22 pounds, and then this week was just kind of all over the map, and I was all over the
Right.
place, and I ate like trash, and I've gained 5 of those pounds back, and I'm like, well, You knew this would happen. So what do? We don't do that. And
Right.
so this week I've got to get more. I've got to be more serious about the fact that I've got to quit, you know, eating fast food because it's quick and I don't have to fuck around with too many different things.
Mm.
And
I was
so,
I was telling Kai there's a front end reward to eating fast food where your brain and your tongue are like, yes, we win, but your body's like, you dick, you know. But when you eat good stuff, it back ends on good body feeling, which makes you
mhm,
want to eat the junk because you feel good enough to do it. And so
right.
it's kind of cool. So I just explained, try and fill up on good, and then whatever's left over, that's yours to enjoy with whatever garbage you want.
hmm and so and so I can tell that, like as like this week when I ate more junk food, I started craving more food, and it was like,
Yeah.
well, why am I craving more food? Because what I'm eating is crap.
Right. Somebody asked if they had any diet suggestions on Twitter, and I was like, fill your fridge full of healthy stuff and pout for 4 months, you know?
Realistically, yes.
Yeah.
Realistically, yes. So
Until you get used to like having to eat celery when you're got the munchies or carrots, you know, and then you're like, that's what you go for first. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's one of the things that I've got to figure out this week is what I'm going to do for lunches. And so I was kind of looking at, like, you know, there's a bunch of really, you know, I will say this, a lot of the instant Asian food is actually surprisingly good, and
Mm-hmm.
you can do some very minimal things to actually make it better. Like,
Yeah.
for example, like some of the, like the tonkatsu ramens, or the Vietnamese pho that you can find, like at Costco, for example.
I love
You
pho.
can literally go to your deli, get like dinner slices of roast beef or turkey or
Mm-hmm.
chicken or something, grab some green onion, and voila, you have just a couple of small little things that's, add a little bit extra to to that instant ramen
Yeah.
or instant pho or instant, whatever. I even saw one that was salmon and rice risotto.
Mm.
I was like, huh.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I've found out is that having more rice in my diet has actually helped me out a lot.
Yeah, it's not that there's no gluten in rice, and it's an awesome way to get a healthy sort of carb. Is if you don't, I mean, if you don't eat like pounds of it, you know, but there's
Right,
like
right, right.
there's the yellow rice, the jasmine rice, there's the whole grain rice, and like you can eat anything you want if you eat something as well that carries it through your body fast enough.
I've
That's
I've
my theory now.
I've really come to enjoy Indian rice. Um,
Mm,
oh man, nice, and it has a great taste. It's really spicy in
yeah.
some cases, and then on top of that, like whatever you decide to pair with it. Like, I've always loved curry. Curry is
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorites. Um, and so, like, rice and curry has become something that I really enjoy. Personally, I enjoy Japanese curry myself.
Yeah.
I really like Japanese curry, but Indian curry is absolutely fantastic. And um, I wish I wasn't so much of a wuss and liked, could have the hotter stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
You know what's interesting? In India, their meals are hot and sweet. So that like you eat that spice and you get so hot that you're hotter than actual India itself. But then you drink like a coconut milk or it comes with a soothing something that soothes you back down so that you're like it's like internal air conditioning the way they eat. And I just really like that, you know?
So that's one of the interesting things about poorer communities is that the poorer the community, the spicier the food.
Yeah.
Why? You don't end up eating as much. And
Right.
so that's been one of those things that's been really interesting to learn about is that um especially like having had friends that have come from poorer communities in
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, where they eat some shit that is like fucking nuclear hot. I mean, it's delicious, but
Right.
holy fucking shit, does that burn like hell. And
Yeah.
one time, so funny story, one time my aunt got a batch of hatch chilies. And my aunt had at this point done a few batches roasting them so that way she could use them for various other things.
Mm.
This batch, I don't know what the hell was up with it, but it was like nuclear. It actually gave my aunt burns through chemical gloves. That's how spicy this
Wow.
shit was. So she made an enchilada, and I mean, this stuff was like toxic sludge green nuclear. And both of us were like, ah, shit. And of course, this is like right before I really figure out that I am very lactose intolerant.
Okay.
So like I am literally like eating a bite of this with like a mountain of sour cream to just tame it. There's a funny recording she has of me literally screaming as I'm eating this because it is so fucking hot. Well, all of her and I each had a slice and we couldn't fucking do it anymore.
Mm,
So she ends up packaging it up, and she's had somebody that worked at the law firm where she was from that is like, you poor little gringos, I really appreciate the fact that you think you know what spicy is. And so my aunt said bet, and gave him a slice of this for lunch. I guess like he was like breathing hard and he was fucking sweating, and
yeah.
he's like, that's some spicy stuff. Not bad, not bad. And I'm going, I was screaming, and this guy's just sweating.
Yeah.
But and that's one of those things where it's like, I would be curious to have somebody who knows, the evolution of
Hmm.
spicy foods, like across various cultures, tell us
Yeah.
why. Was it really just, because poor communities don't have access to food, and so
That's
this was their
interesting
way
because
of limiting?
Mediterranean food doesn't have a lot of spice, you
Right.
know? That's so
German
interesting.
food, not
Yeah.
spicy.
You go to the
Nordic
Middle
food,
East though, and it is
yep.
all spice, but it's also crappier portions of the meat. Like you were talking about pho, and originally that's like the discarded remnants of meat, and so you can get it with the meat or meat tendon and bone because what that is, that's a big pot of broth that they just throw stuff in like
Hmm.
all day and it just simmers and gets better and better all day. I love pho, but I don't get it with like the tendons and stuff, you know?
And I think what's really funny is like, especially, and this is more just, observation. I don't know if there's any sort of scientific basis behind it, but as somebody who grew up poor,
Mm,
I have found foods that are delicious to also come from poor communities.
yeah.
You
Heck
know,
yeah.
and I think that's a really interesting idea, is that, does poor have a taste? And
Mm.
do you end up gravitating towards, other communities that were poor, that, developed their own food based off of what they could get their hands on?
Right.
Like American Chinese food is, most people are like, oh, it's a delicacy. But when you look at the history of American Chinese food, it's like, kind of like what Vietnamese pho is. It was literally the leftovers of whatever
Right.
they had that they could make.
Mhm.
And, it turns out that, a lot of us are like, this is pretty good. And there's a lot of people out there like, this is disgusting and trash. And I'm like,
Mhm.
probably you're right.
I
But
It's a combination. Once you get it the way you like it, then yeah, like pho without the tendons, oh, it's glorious. But with the tendons, I'm constantly feeling in my mouth, and I could see where people don't like that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but once again, that boils down to access to food, and,
Mhm.
people do what they can with what they got. And when you increasingly have less and less, you have to get creative with what you do get.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And so
I'm
you
trying
get
to think about
spicy.
Filipino food, and I can't think of too many really spicy Filipino foods, and that's like super poor. But then I'm thinking about Cajun food, and that's super spicy. I love it. Like
Mm,
but what I can't do is mix flavors. Like I like hummus, and I use this like Moroccan chili paste. It's
hmm.
so awesome. It has this like on your tongue, it's like, oh, we're gonna kill you. But then as it goes on the back of your throat, it's super warm and just like, oh, we love you
Mm,
now. And I love it. And I put it in my hummus, but I also have Asian flavors I can't put in my hummus. Or like Frank's Red Hot or
hmm.
like American. I couldn't put that in hummus. So it's just
Right.
weird to me. But I put my Asian seasonings on my broccoli with some sesame seeds and well,
Hmm.
that was awesome. That was like Chinese food grade broccoli. I was super happy.
Yeah. So
Man. And I found something else about myself today. Well,
what'd you find out?
actually yesterday, what I did was I noticed that I ate Crystals fast food. I don't know if you have Crystals. It's like White Castle, but
No, no
it
idea what that
killed me
is.
for like 4 days. And then I had a California Pizza Kitchen pizza, and that killed me. And so what I did was I went back into my food purchases and I looked at what was in Oreos, not Oreos, Cheerios, because that kills me, and then the pizza kitchen dough, and then I looked at something else that hurt me really bad, and it all had one ingredient in common that my like shredded mini wheats didn't have, and it was a high fructose corn syrup. So I
Hmm.
looked, I was like, is there anything reaction? And yes, it's called fructose malabsorption. Yeah. And so 1 in 3 people can suffer from that. And I just
Hmm.
realized that's me. I have every single symptom. So Monday, I'm going to call my doctor. There's a real easy test because fructose in your gut creates hydrogen. And so they do a breath test. They give you some fructose and then they make you breathe for 3 hours and they check your levels out. So I might,
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
that'll be really interesting. And that's the thing is like I'm I'm trying to do better about it, and I think it's kind of one of those things like, for example, I was work from home on I was work from home on Thursday, and so what I ended up doing was that morning I put together all the stuff to do a pot roast, and I
mm,
just sat I know all the ingredients that are in it.
yeah,
It's very simple. I don't have to worry about reading labels because it's
mm-hmm,
literally the roast, the
right,
paprika, the cayenne pepper, the Johnny seasoning, the salt,
mm-hmm,
the pepper, the basil leaves that I put in, the beef, the beef broth that I put in.
right.
It's like all things that I know what's in it. And so I'm not worried about having to try and figure out, is this going to make me feel like garbage later?
Right. It was
You
just
know.
some of the things like you could also have celiac and this, like they're not one and the same and they're not sure if one causes the other, but like onions really upset my
Mhm.
stomach. And I was like, how does onion even fit in? And right there it says it. You could, and so it was just so interesting. And high fructose corn syrup is like in more and more things every
Yep.
like it's like 1,000-fold increase. And I was like, I never thought that something like that would cause that, but yeah, it builds up in me because it doesn't, everything else digests, and this finds like a little spot where it can just sit and then it just collects. It's like this sticky goo that just collects everything that goes through it, you know?
Hmm.
And that's so wonderful to know. I still might have a gluten intolerance. I'm still working towards that,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
I'm also trying to get rid of the fructose and all that goes with just what you said, knowing what's in my foods, you know?
Well, and I think that's where, like for example, like having communities that are like, hey, I'm poor and I can only afford so much. What can I make?
Mhm.
I think that is probably one of my favorite questions that I ever saw on Reddit
Yeah.
was, I've got $20 to feed myself through the rest of the week. I've got a job and I'm getting paid finally, but it's
Mhm.
like I don't know what to do. And you had a bunch of people like, hey, I'll order you a pizza. Hey, we'll do this. And this is really right before the heyday of, hey, I can order you some groceries and you can go pick them up.
Right.
But there were so many people that had figured out, hey, this is what $20 can get you. Where are you at? We can figure out what sales tax looks like.
Mhm.
And, like my what I called Spanish bucket casserole, is essentially rice, beans, some cheap chicken breasts,
Yeah.
um, some salsa, some barley, some lentils, and you literally end up with this freaking power pack nutritional meal. And
Right.
all you need is a cheapo bag of chips if you want to dip it or not. And
Right.
voila, like
Mm.
yeah, you're gonna hate the fact that you don't have any variety for a week, but it will make you enough food for a week. And the guy was like, yeah, I have
Mhm.
an instant pot. And it's like, perfect.
Perfect.
It's like, I will, here's your grocery list. It should
Yeah.
cost you less than $20. And on top of that, you will be eating good real quick. and so,
Definitely.
and so he ended up making that. And he messaged me later and he was like, dude, that was actually really amazing and so simple. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
when I was constantly on the go because, I was having to commute, 45 minutes out and back,
Mhm.
it was nice to have something that I could literally just throw in real quick when I got home, hit
Yeah.
start, and then go change and get myself going. By the time that I was done, I would have dinner done and ready.
That I realized this week that it's really important to me to know what I'm going to be eating next. So having that planned out a little bit ahead of time, I pounded down a chicken breast, cut it in half. I put the broccoli in, rice on top of that, half a chicken breast. I made 2 meals. Now I know what I'm eating, and I don't have to worry about that, you know? And I love that. And a lot of things is serving size as well. We're like, we're hungry, we're starving, and we can't afford food. We got to eat as much as possible. But if you cut the portion down, you'll have more meals throughout the day. Instead of
Right.
like being hungry 6 hours later, you'll be hungry 4 hours later, and you'll have more food, you know?
Well, and then also too, you'll find there's certain things that you can get that, maybe you're not necessarily a fan of at first, but
Hmm.
you'll eventually come to enjoy.
Yeah.
Things like, trail mixes of various sorts, or
Yeah. Grape nuts. Somebody was like, "Well, grape nuts is the only thing I know that doesn't have sugar in it." So I was like, "I'll get that," you know? And that is like brutal on you the first couple weeks, like your jaw just hurts.
well, that's why you always soak that one in milk first before
Hmm.
you do that. I always loved grape nuts. My problem is that I would drown it in sugar, and that doesn't really help.
Right. No, I put it in my oatmeal actually. I found
Mm,
some high fiber, high protein, low sugar Quaker oat instant, and I just put some grape nuts in there or some raisins, which also might hurt me. The fructose in raisins and plums and prunes. That's so
mm,
weird. It's so weird. Or asparagus, you know. But like
right.
soda doesn't hurt me. And it's because it just doesn't stay in long enough, you know?
Right, and that's the difference is,
Mm-hmm.
for me, like I can't drink sugary sodas. So
Yeah,
like if I'm gonna have a soda, I can only drink diet. And so realistically, what I've tried to do is just eliminate soda. Every once,
me too.
I think I've had 3 sodas in the past month,
Wow.
and
That's more
and
than me.
and even then, but it used to be that I was having one a day.
Yeah, I get that.
So like, and I can't, and with the sugary sodas, I've found out that like I'll drink it and I'll be good for like an hour and a half, and then
Mhm.
I hit that crash so hard that I'm like falling asleep at my desk, and I'm like, I can't be
Right.
doing that.
But we gotta, if we look at these things properly, like, oh my God, I'm dead tired and I need energy for 15 minutes, drink a soda, right? But if you're like, oh man, it's 4 hours before I get to eat again, then you need a combination of carbs and protein, right? And then
Right,
if you're just like, I gotta eat something for the whole day, you gotta go more protein. You know what I mean?
right,
Like
right, right.
the carb is what gets us through the moment. And sometimes we just don't plan for the moment. We plan for all day instead of, well, I need energy for this long. And that's what I'm learning is like adding the fuel that I'm going to use. I don't exercise, so I can't put a lot of carbs into my diet. But if I was to start exercising, I would need to increase my carbs to match my burning, you know?
Well, one of the things that I'm even looking at, thinking about doing too, is that like, for example, it's like I like sweets. I've always liked
I do
sweets,
too. Yeah.
but the problem with processed sugar sweets in candy is I get that same crash. But if I eat
Yeah.
fruit, the problem I have is that working in the environment I do, I don't have time to eat like my favorites are like peaches and apricots. I love or
Right.
nectarines. I love those. They are messy as fuck.
Yep.
And
That's
so
right.
realistically, what I want to be able to do is snack on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm actually looking at getting a dehydrator and making my own dehydrated peaches and apricots and nectarines.
Yes.
So that way I can literally just have something to snack on, like as I need it.
Mm-hmm. That's why I
Because
like
I
grapes.
find, well, and that's the thing is like I find that it's like, I don't get enough fruits and veggies in my diet anyways. I've gotten better about
Right.
the veggies, but I still suck at the fruits one. And I've noticed that as I've used more sugars from fruits, I feel better.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's a fructose, but again, my body can absorb that easier because there's a fiber in the fruit that helps it go through faster. It's the processed shit that they just like, well, let's pour some corn syrup in this to make it a little sweeter. You know, it's like,
So,
God damn it, you didn't have to do that in my
so,
bread, you know?
so the one that's in fruit is let me see.
Yeah.
Let me look this
Well,
up real
I
quick.
like that. That's so interesting. But like Kai was saying, she doesn't get fruit because it goes bad really fast. And like being blind, it's hard to tell if fruit is bad or not. Like bread is tough for me to tell if bread went bad.
Yeah.
So it's all just yeah,
So
it's
so that's the
different.
difference. So the difference is that fruits have two sugars, fructose and glucose.
Right.
Glucose, our body can break down really easily. Fructose, a little bit more difficult.
Right.
So, like with sodas, like kind of like one of the things that with other foods that are high in fructose, your body's not breaking it down as well. But your body knows glucose. Your body's like, ah,
Yeah.
yes, I know what to do with you.
Right. And high fructose corn syrup is that fructose with a glucose added to the chain. That doesn't make sense to me, but I read
Mhm.
it.
Well, that's and I think that's where like if somebody's a nutritionist and
Right.
has more insight on that, that would be a real interesting discussion in and of itself.
I try to
But
that's what I call like a preservative or an additive, something that was changed to,
mhm,
you know what I like baking powder, yeah, we kind of need that, you know what I mean? But that's not something that alters the chemistry as much as like
right,
going in there and adding something to the chain. Like like
right.
there's an atom, right? And then around that is little I don't know what they're called, but there's little attachments to it, little rings, and how many rings determines what that
Mhm.
is. And so you can remove a ring. Like if there's a sugar and you take a ring off of that, you can get rid of the bad component of the sugar. Or you can add that bad component into something good and say now it's less sugar.
Well, so the way that that works,
Wow,
I
I
can
didn't know
explain
we'd
a
get
little
to
bit about
chemistry.
chemistry.
I didn't know we
I
would get to chemistry today. Wow.
so I can explain chemistry a lot better. So when you look at chemical
Mhm.
chains, for example, the more simple the chain is, the easier it is to break down. So like a simple sugar is CH4, for example. CH4 is a very simple sugar that your body is very capable of breaking down, very easy. The more that you put, the longer that chain is, the
Mhm.
more things that are attached to it that are not just CH4, your body has to work to break it down. Now, some people think, oh, well, that's great. Your body's trying to break this down and burn it. Well, the problem is that what ends up happening is you end up getting a lot of sugar components, and those sugar components they're each a sugar essentially, but some of them just don't really, some of them pass through, some of them
Mhm.
end up your body's trying to break those down, but it takes the piece that it knows and it goes, I'll store you for later because I know I
Right.
can break you down. And so the longer you have in a chemical chain, the more byproducts you get, the harder it is to break it down. And so you end up with a lot of different things. Now,
Yeah.
that's the same for, things like ethanol, methanol, gasoline, for example,
Mhm.
these different alcohols that combust and burn. The more complex the alcohol, the harder it is to combust. And what ends up happening is you end up with a bunch of byproducts that are left over. But
Right.
the power that you get from the different combustions is very different,
Mhm.
you know.
It's a way
So
to regulate the combustion so you don't blow up the machinery. Yeah.
it's a way to regulate the combustion so you don't blow up the machinery. It's a way
That's
to
for the body too.
absolutely,
But
you
I
know,
honestly think that the stuff that we can't break down sits in your body and your body leaches from it. Like the sugar
mm,
that the fructose sitting in my body is my body constantly at a higher sugar level because my body knows it's there and it's accounting for it in my blood sugar, but it's not digesting it, you know?
see now I got to look up
So
uh
I
the
think,
the
and so for me, just more fiber just pushes that stuff through faster. I can have a little fructose in my corn, in my creamer if I have something right after that that's going to shove it through, you know? And I think that works for everybody.
all right, so table sugar, aka sucrose disaccharide.
Mm-hmm.
So the formula for uh table sugar is C12H22O11. That's your good old classic white sugar. And so that's looking at that, the simplicity of it is quite amazing. Now let me
Yeah.
look up I want to look up
It like
glucose.
it fits keys in your body. Your body knows how to handle that. It goes into a little slot and your body goes, "Oh, sugar, hi. Yeah, we're gonna
So,
use you."
so glucose is C6H12O6. So it's a less complex chain. So,
Nice.
so even, still, it's just three elements,
Mm-hmm.
but you end up breaking that down differently. So, which is why, like, your body breaks down glucose, but when you get sucrose, for example, table sugar,
Right.
it goes, okay, I'm going to burn off this glucose aspect of it,
Yeah.
because you essentially your body's breaking down these chemical chains to get what it needs, but
Right.
then you end up with a bunch of leftovers, and that's what
Yes.
gets stored
Or expelled.
or expelled
Yeah.
or
That's
sends you to
cool.
diabetic shock.
Exactly. I love food talk. I love food talk. I just saw something I'll wrap up on food talk. It's the Ninja Creamy, and you can make your own ice cream out
Mm,
of anything with anything.
hmm
And I was like, oh, I just want to buy those for Jeffrey and Kai, and we can just talk about the Ninja Creamy. Because you were talking about you can't make milkshakes, and I was like, if he could make his own milk, his own ice cream, and know what's in that, then he could go on to make milkshakes that he knew. And Kai wants better food. She was talking about protein shakes, and I was like, I just want smoothies, with like Greek
right.
yogurt and some whole milk and fruit. So I don't know.
Yeah, for me it's like I just want to be able to have a freaking strawberry malt again.
Oh man.
I
I
love
don't know
strawberry
what's in the
malts.
malt powder though, but it gives a flavor, doesn't it?
It really does.
Love it. So, okay, let's start with this. Uh, I wanted to ask you because on Happy Pride Month, by the way. I,
Happy Pride Month to
and
all
and
you
I
people
I
out
want
there.
to say I totally am leaning into Pride Month. The skies are full of rainbows, and I appreciate that. This is one of the most important Pride months in my lifetime, and I really need people to celebrate it, respect it, and honor it because there's people attacking Pride on all sides, and so we have to show
Hmm
our support on that. And I'm not big on like, oh, it's the month to do it, so we're gonna do it. But I do want to say Happy Pride Month, and I wanted to ask you a question, and I'm going to step away while you answer it. And somebody asked on Twitter, are you an LGBT podcast?" And I was like, "What does that mean? Is it guest, host, topics, conversations? Like,
Ooh,
I don't know what that means. Are we an LGBT
so
podcast?" Okay.
so before you step away, I'd ask
Yeah, yeah.
you, uh, how would you classify yourself?
Asexual.
Asexual?
Retired asexual grayscale.
Mm, okay,
I love cuddling, but I feel more comfortable knowing it's not going to go beyond that.
there you
Right.
go. For me, I would consider myself heteroflexible.
Okay.
It's, I definitely am more attracted to, women, female body, but um, I can appreciate a good-looking man,
Hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
I wouldn't exclude a man from the cuddle puddle. You know what I mean?
Right,
But I have that natural asexual boundary of I just assume it's not going further. So,
right, 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 right. So, I guess how would I describe
but it's not
us?
like we've ever declared. We've never had an episode where we're like, we're gonna have everybody declare what they are, you know?
Um, no, no, we
No.
haven't really done that. So how would I describe us?
Yeah,
So
do that.
the way that I would describe us is I wouldn't classify us as an LGBTQ podcast. And the reason I say that is for a few different reasons. Um, number one, we don't always talk about LGBTQ related issues. We don't necessarily approach things, from an LGBTQ standpoint. We don't really, how do I say this? I think our goal is to, bring voices together to, have solid discussions. I would say that the biggest difference is that we're very willing to include people that are LGBTQ, knowing our own personalities and knowing our own sexualities. We're very willing to bring LGBTQ people into the mix,
Heck yeah.
but I wouldn't say that we are an LGBTQ podcast just
Okay.
because we don't approach things from that point of view. It's
Right.
it's we're we bring people in to talk about these things because we recognize the need to have a multitude of voices, and that includes queer voices.
Hmm.
Um, to have fuller, richer discussion. You know, they're a group of people that have consistently been left out of conversations nationally,
Yeah.
and it's only been in the probably the last 10 years that more people are starting to include them. Now, the biggest issue that I have is, I call, I don't call it this. A lot of people call it this. I mean, I do call it that, but it's not me that gave it the name. Rainbow capitalism. You see all these
Yeah.
corporations that have changed their logos to be rainbows and all of this
Hmm.
shit. And when you look at the way that they donate to Republicans, and it's like,
Right.
as
But
much as I hate to,
that's not Pride's fault, right?
it's not Pride's fault. That's the,
No.
that's the corporation's fault. And
Right.
so, this month is always really tough because,
Hmm.
queer voices need to be heard, but they, once again, it's kind of like, Black History Month. It's not just a month where we go, oh yes, I see you and I hear you, and then
Right.
ignore you for 11 months. It
Right.
has to be something where consistently queer voices are a part of the discussion, the
Right.
national discussion on whatever is going on. Because, like we've talked about, um, when it comes to rights, it's not that we should be giving people rights. It's that we need to stop taking them away. Period. End of story.
Right. Compromising on our rights. Yeah, no, I
Hmm.
totally get that. I want to see Pride Month as like a New Year's festival, like the end of an amazing Pride year. And I want Black History Month to be like we're celebrating the gains we made this year. You know, I don't want to look at it as like just a month because I don't like
Right.
having like visual impairity month. That kind of sucks. I miss it every month, every year. It's March and I miss it. And so but I do want to lean into it this year and say that let's make this the beginning of that discussion. You know, even when we
Hmm.
had Dejan, by the way, which was until recently one of our most popular episodes for a campaign episode, you know.
Right.
And I wanted to have Deja on this week, but then I realized we were going to be doing a lot of catching up, and I didn't want to go from like not talking for 2 weeks to like Deja, you know, and be like cramming that in because suddenly I realized, ooh, that would be seen as a Pride Month cram in, and I don't want to do that. Like
Right.
I don't want to because I think Deja's amazing. I adore her,
Her.
but I also don't want her on solely because of that. Like she doesn't
Right.
they never have to come on. She never has to come on and be like, I'm transgender and that's why I'm here. No, we don't declare, you don't have to either, but it's nice to have that perspective when we talk about food insecurity to have somebody say, yeah, and I handle a lot of trans organizations that also have that issue. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's the thing is that, providing the space for people to come on and share what they're seeing through their optics
Yeah,
is how you bring a forth national discussion.
right.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I struggle with Pride Month, not because I don't think Pride is important, is because I
Hmm.
see all of these major, organizations co-opting Pride to
Yeah,
give themselves some good PR while they do
right.
shitty crap the next 11 months. It's no
Yep.
different than what I would consider Sunday Christians, where 6 days of the week they're fucking terrible people, and then on
Hmm.
day 7 when they have to go to church, they're pious and I have done wrong and I promise I'll do better,
Right.
and then go back to doing crappy things for the next 6 days until they have to go to church again. Like, like that's the problem is that, I get it, as an organization, who doesn't want tax breaks, who doesn't want to have a lower tax burden?
Sure.
But when the price of doing business is the oppression of and the removal of rights of, variety of people,
Hmm. Yeah.
that doesn't look good. You can't come over and say we support you. Oh, by the way, we're donating to DeSantis so that way we don't have to say gay. Like
Right.
that doesn't make any sense.
I think organizations, they trying to address an issue, but they always refuse to see the intersectionality and cooperation between other organizations, and then they isolate so that they can continue to collect donations to support the administration that they suddenly created.
Mhm.
Like, they need to all have an arm that works on intersectionality. Like, Planned Parenthood should be reaching out to every male organization going, do you support us? We want to have conversations with you, because I hate to be a dick about it, but it's men that are doing this to women, and so you need to rally men on your side. And it seems like women are like, we do not want your help on this, but it's us that are hurting them, so it's us that needs to help. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and I mean, realistically, I don't see it as just men as hurting Planned Parenthood so much as I see it as evangelistic Christianity as what's
Yeah.
hurting Planned Parenthood, because most of them only see Planned Parenthood as this, abortion mill,
Uh-huh.
and that's like 1% of what they do,
Right.
maybe.
Cancer screenings, STD
Health,
screening,
STD.
and mammograms, pap smears, like gynecological exams that save lives and catch things in an early stage,
Yeah.
hysterectomies, like medications. People that don't have insurance go to Planned Parenthood for their medications, not just their like contraceptives.
Right.
Yeah.
Planned Parenthood provides, so much more because, i- uh, you know,
Yeah.
if you do want to be a parent, not having breast cancer and dying while your kid is, a child is
Mm-hmm.
part of that whole planned part of Planned Parenthood.
Right.
And people don't see that. A lot of people just see it as an abortion mill, and that's really not what it is. It's
Yeah.
it's 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 one facet of what they provide, and the rest of it is anything from, hey, let's make sure that you don't ever have to find yourself in a position of needing an abortion, or
Right.
hey, congratulations, you are having a kid, let's make sure that you're going to have a healthy child,
Yeah.
and oh, hey, by the way, let's make sure that you're healthy so that way you don't leave your child, on
Yeah.
this earth without you. Like like the narrative has been so controlled around what Planned Parenthood is in that
Mm-hmm.
in certain sects of the political spectrum,
Right.
that you literally can't see it for anything else that it provides, and it's just absolutely wild to me. Like, I've heard stories about people being yelled at about, you don't need to have an abortion, and then the person's like, I'm
Right.
going in for a cancer screening.
Mm-hmm. But one side turns it up to 11 so that the other side has to address that specific. And now that's all you hear on the media is abortion, Planned Parenthood, abortion. Like, you never hear the other stuff. And that's the
Right.
problem. I noticed, like, yeah, I just switched to local news, dude, and it was, here's the story. There it is. Here's another story. When we come back, another story in the weather. Hey, that was the story. That was the weather. Traffic. Have a nice day. And I was like, that is so awesome. There's no hours of opinion. I get to make up my own mind, you know?
Right. And and to me, that's one of the reasons why I really don't like watching, the
Yeah,
mainstream news, is because
I'm over it.
it's just constant. Like, the I want to say the new exec of CNN literally put out a message to everybody saying, fucking cool it with the breaking news thing.
It's on every after every commercial break. Breaking news. We just talked about this a week ago. We're going to talk about it again. Okay, Wolf Blitzer, I'm not watching you anymore. And Anderson Cooper and like Don Lemon, I haven't watched them in years because they guilt me for being not liberal enough. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck you.
It's like,
I want to put what's her Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, Anderson Cooper, and Don Lemon in a rowboat and put them on an island and make them fight it out. And I'll watch whoever survives, you know?
nah, hell with that. Put them on an island and then just nuke the island.
Just leave them. Just start putting Rachel over there. Just all of them.
Like, it's so frustrating because,
Yeah.
like, the coverage, and especially what we're going to cover in hour two,
Hmm.
the coverage of things that happen, everybody is racing to just get something out,
Yeah.
and it has become such a shit show that, you've got everything from, like, the entire narrative of what happened, 2 weeks ago is completely wrong. You've
Right.
got this whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing, where I want to say it was the New York Times or something like that, or the Washington Post. They put out Amber Heard's story, only to now have to put a note that she lost a defamation case. That this
Oh,
was a
wow.
like they're keeping the article up, but now it has an editor's note that this was considered defamatory.
Hmm.
And so it's like everybody is trying to be quote unquote relevant enough to get eyeballs onto their station to sell ad revenue, that we've
Yeah.
lost the entire point of what is the news. Here's what's happened. Here's how this is affecting, the general public. Here's what
Mm-hmm.
you need to be worried about, or here's what you need to do to look after yourself.
Right.
End scene.
You know what? I got to go back to the top of my note for something. I heard something, and I'm going to give a shout out to the podcast Hysteria, Aaron Ryan and Alyssa Mastromonico. They had a conversation going, and they coined a phrase called cloud whoring. Cloud whoring, they used the example of Ben Shapiro having an opinion on the Amber Heard Johnny Depp type. And so what I'm taking it as is people that have no reason to be involved in that making having a hot take for likes,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of people are doing that. It's like
Yes.
the hot take. I don't know if you saw my Instagram, but the girl was like, hey, we've seen all the hot takes we can handle. We don't need any more. We solved everything. We can shut up now. And I was like, yes.
That was just like when you asked me, have a few, 2 or 3 weeks ago, about this whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. What do you think? And
Yeah,
I said it's a shit show, and that's it.
yeah,
It's like I don't want to talk about it. It's because I don't have an opinion on it. It's
I don't.
what it sounds like, two broken people doing broken shit to each other, and we've literally turned it into a fucking circus. Like that's
Right.
like, why is it so special that these two people are the ones that are in the media? It's like, I know, Jim Bob and
Yeah.
Chelsea Ray are probably having the same fucking issues at home on their own,
Yep.
but nobody gives a shit about them because they live in a trailer park in Alabama or whatever.
that that's what divorce court and Jerry Springer and Judge
It's
Mathis and
literally
Judge
that's
Judy are for. Yeah.
this was literally just A-list Judge Judy is what it was, and it was
Right.
garbage. It's
It
just
was garbage.
shit.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted to talk about it so that way they would get eyeballs onto their ads. And it's
Mhm.
it's like, I don't care about what happened with these two people. Like,
No.
from the looks of it, it looks like they're both completely fucked up,
Yeah.
and what happened was completely disgusting, and they both need to fucking take some time with themselves and just fucking clean their fucking lives up. And
Yeah.
that's not for any of us to be involved in, period, in a story.
That's right. And they were examples of cautionary tales. You know what I mean? Like, don't be Johnny Depp. I'm sorry. I didn't have much respect for him to begin with because I don't do celebrity. Like I don't do celebrity for like that girl, that podcast, Alyssa Mastromonico. I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I mentioned you during Women's History Month as one of my inspirational women. And she was like, thank you. And I was like, holy shit, that's an inspiration to me. Like
Hmm.
somebody that worked in the White House, a colored woman that survived and thrived in the White House in the Obama era to become somebody and now is just saying hi to me. That's awesome. I don't need Amber Heard's approval. You know
Right.
what I mean? To me, celebrities are celebrities for doing nothing. A hard job. Acting's a hard job, but so is driving a
Absolutely.
forklift. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So is driving a forklift. So is,
Mhm.
what Dan does,
Yeah,
especially at the height of things at its worst. So is your local police officer, peace officer. So is your local firefighter.
totally.
So is your local teacher.
Right.
These are all, there's so many different, things that we could focus on, you
Mhm.
know, that have uh, a
They're
greater
all
impact.
important or they wouldn't be around, right?
Well, like for example, the sh- the shortage of teachers. How is that not something that is worth being covered 24/7?
Yeah,
Because that impacts every person with children, and there
right.
happens to be a lot of people with kids in this country.
That's right.
Or how right now it's been increasingly harder to get um, people to sign up to be cops in
Mhm.
various large cities,
Yeah.
and how for example, Seattle has flat out said that you know unless there's a rape kit, they're not doing anything with sexual assault that they can't
Wow.
investigate and get to a prosecutor. They just don't have the ability, they don't have the manpower to do anything about
Right. No, I
it.
totally get
or
it.
the fact that there are fire departments out there that are literally just trying to make do with the fact that they're short staffed,
Hmm.
and you've got people who are working extra shifts, longer shifts, and that's going to be an issue with community safety. Like,
Yeah. The grocery
I
store
don't
clerk too, by the way, the one at the register, they have been battling for like 3 years now, right? Like shitty
like
conditions and then COVID, where they had to stand at a register where everyone else was protected except them, you know?
and
Fuck,
so and
that's
so all
terrible.
of this so all of this all of this stuff with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard is great distraction from
Yeah.
the fact that the world is, I wouldn't say literally burning down around you, but it is great. It's like lidocaine for the brain is what I call it.
Hmm.
It is literally just mind-numbing bullshit, so that way you don't have to sit down and go, wow, my community's got some serious fucking problems that aren't being
Yeah.
addressed.
Yeah, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, the shit poor people already knew were happening, you
It's
know?
it's it's junk food for the brain is all it is.
Right.
It leaves you feeling great for a moment until that
Hmm.
fucking junk food wears off, and then you're like, I feel like shit.
Actually,
Why do I feel like shit?
I think it's the tail end of outrage culture. I think we're trying to find outrage in this stuff because we can't find outrage in the other stuff anymore. There is no outrage in women's rights anymore. It's black and white. You want to take rights away? We want to keep people's rights. It's like everything's black and white, so now we have to find outrage in Big Bird or Dr. Seuss or Mr. Potato Head or Amber and Johnny. And it's like, we don't need to be involved in that. I don't need to know. Like, yeah, that shit happens all over the planet, and money doesn't stop you from becoming addicted. In fact, it helps you to become addicted. And
Like,
it's a shitty thing that we just have to focus. And I don't know anybody that has mentioned it. Nobody, like a couple of people have been like, I don't know anything about it. I haven't paid attention. And I'm like, thank God I have some rational friends.
it's like, for example, this stuff is literally a distraction from the fact that inflation has hit such high levels that, I don't, in some ways I'm envious that you don't have to go, you can't drive around because literally you don't have to see how fucking expensive gas prices are.
Right.
But unfortunately, you are seeing it in how much your food costs because that's gone up.
But I was telling my friend, I was like, gas holidays, they don't affect me. Teachers, they don't affect me. Women's rights, they don't directly affect me. Like, I don't have to discuss, advocate for any of this. My life will not change if these things change. But you're right. There is a cost to it because if we want
Mhm.
more mental health officials, we have to educate them. We can't remove social justice from social studies and expect to create representatives that want to represent everybody because they don't know everybody
Mhm.
exists. These things will affect me.
Right, exactly. You know, and that's just it. Is that all of this stuff, all of these issues are so important yet so overlooked because we have to hear whatever the latest outrage is. It's like, I'm sorry, but people need to start shitting on Joe Biden and his policies at this point. I shit on Donald Trump for 4 years and I started shitting on Joe Biden. And,
Yeah.
during that time, everybody was like, oh, well, you're just a bleeding heart liberal. No. And here's the
Mm-mm.
proof. Fuck Joe Biden. I don't give a shit. He has literally done next to nothing in order to help rein in the inflation issues, to help,
Right.
because it's like, sure, yes, you can sit down and you can work with the feds and have them start raising interest rates. It's a blunt force tool, but it is only one facet of the problem here. You've got
Hmm.
supply chain issues that are completely fucked up. You
Yeah.
have our energy system, which is completely fucked up and dependent on other countries.
Yeah.
And what is Joe Biden doing? He's asking OPEC to produce more oil.
He's given a
No,
killer a meeting for an increase in oil output.
and you know what he hasn't? You know what else he's done? He's made it harder for more drilling and oil leasing on American lands to create energy independence. Yes, at least if you were like throwing stuff out there in order to produce,
Hmm.
help us produce more electricity. Like, hey, we're going to open up these federal lands to put wind farms on. Hey, great, that would be that would at least be something. But
Yeah.
he's not even doing that.
I
So
don't I don't
so
know.
if you're not going to allow America to drill for more oil, but you're
Right.
also not going to do anything that helps us produce more energy so that way we're not dependent on oil, then what the
Right.
fuck are you doing other
Well,
than letting prices go up? And this is the kind of shit that's going to get the Republicans elected in the midterms, and
mm,
eventually they're going to retake the White House because
it
this is trash.
there was a fork in the road, and Joe Biden went Build Back Better and had it put all of his eggs in green energy. And if that Build Back Better had happened, we wouldn't be talking as much about this, but we would be talking about the increase in jobs and energy output in electricity. But we're not doing that. And the other thing is, somebody Donald Trump was on the stage every single day telling us how he was breaking things. Joe Biden is not. He needs to be out there for an hour every day explaining because people need their minds they need like what we do. We do an hour so that 2 hours so people can do the math of how we got there. I'm
Mhm.
okay that Joe Biden is somewhere. I want to know how he got there. And Donald
Right.
Trump told me every step of the way how he was getting where he was getting, and I hated it. Joe Biden
Mhm.
needs to tell me every day how we're getting back, why the reasons are for what he's doing, and he's not doing that. And
Right.
that's what bugs me is that he's not communicating. And I knew that when we nominated him, that he was going to be a tired president that's out of breath
Yep.
and just done with it. And I'm
Right.
sorry, I just don't like agent. There was a guy on Twitter that said Donald Trump sucked, but I wish he would just stick to the finance portion. And I was like, yeah, because our aged, diminishing elders are so good with the bank accounts. We should put all of them in charge of our money. No response. They want Donald Trump because he's an icon, but they don't realize there's nowhere he fits. You can't
No.
put him on a hockey team and say he's a forward or a defenseman or a
the
goalie,
people
you
the
know?
people he had around him made solid choices that
Hmm.
really did encourage explosive job
Right.
growth. It was like everybody wants to say it was Donald Trump. Realistically, no,
No.
it was the people that he initially put around him
Hmm.
that came up with it. But then he pissed those people off and they fucking left.
Right.
And then, his presidency became a fucking revolving door of all these different people coming through.
With
And
wilder ideas, yeah.
that's the thing is we went from you know changing up the tax structure, and
Hmm.
you look at a bunch of companies that suddenly were like, yeah, we'll start paying people $15 an hour, and you had
Yeah.
a bunch of people on the left go, wait, what? They were pissed because it was like, corporate greed, and corporations went, okay, well, thanks to the tax breaks, now I'm going to pay $15 an hour, and they were like,
Right.
but corporate greed and corporate greed and corporate greed. Like, look, I don't doubt that there's still corporate greed, but
Oh, tons of it. All they did was
but
buybacks with that tax break. And remember that Donald Trump, there's three things he didn't do. He didn't zero out poor people's taxes. He
nope,
didn't legalize cannabis, and
nope,
he didn't eliminate student debt. Three
nope.
things that he could have done in one tweet and gotten reelected.
Oh, Jesus.
He did not want to get reelected if it meant he had to help people. That's
But I
what
mean,
we need to remember.
literally, if Donald Trump had said that he was erasing student debt because, you know, student loan debt is what's, keeping,
Hmm.
America poor, and that it was a liberal scheme to keep, Americans on the government system, everybody would have been cheering Donald Trump erasing,
Right.
student loan debt.
Fighting capitalism.
Yeah, he because it literally would have been, it literally would have been one of those things. It's like, great, it's
Mhm.
your money, your money has been put to work in the American system,
Right.
more than this idea of the student loan program.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that he didn't do that. Now Joe Biden's not doing it.
Right.
Literally, if one Republican were to do that, like, it wouldn't even be a fucking close election. It
That's
wouldn't.
right.
And at the rate things are going for Joe Biden, it's not going to be a close election. And
Yeah.
I really do think that people who are very on the left leaning side of things are going to need to embrace themselves for the fact that most likely we're going to have a Republican controlled House.
Mhm.
Most likely we're going to have a Republican controlled Senate. And what that means is that Joe Biden's not going to get shit done for the next 2 years while a
He doesn't plan on
Republican
it,
president while they figure out what Republican president candidate is going to be showing up.
But I like why he's doing what he's doing. He's saying, I can't do anything. I'm just an executive. They need to do something. I'll tell them to do something, but I can't make them do it. But
Right.
he's also not creating like the House can create a bill, Senate, House, President. The president can also create a policy or a bill and hand it to the House or the Senate and ask them to question, and then it goes through the processes. He can come up with ideas too, and he's not.
Well,
and neither did
that's-
Donald Trump. Donald Trump never made a policy beyond the tax bill that he handed to Congress to debate.
Yep.
Adam's here.
So,
All right. Thank you for listening to Public Access America. My name is Jason. His name is Jeffrey. We are we're going a little long, so no more just the tips. No more just the tips. Well, at the beginning.
You say just the tips?
Just the tip, baby, just the tip.
Mind if I join in? It might be a little short tip, but I'll get in here.
Hey,
Love
this
it.
welcome to the tri-tip. Oh, wait.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Public Access America. My name is Jason. His name is Jeffrey, and his name is Adam. And we are here. I know I want to talk so much with what's going on, but we have like such a packed hour. I'm just going to ask you both. I'm going to start with Adam. Hi, Adam. How are you doing? What's top of mind for you? Like, what's going on? What's going on before we get into any sort of topics?
Well, here's what's going on.
What's wrong with your microphone? What's going on here?
Is it good or bad?
No, you sound like you're Sean.
Oh no.
Sorry.
Yeah, it sounds like your laptop is picking up your voice instead of your mic. I need that smooth, buttery voice.
Shit, dude. And I got a brand new microphone too, and it's fucking shit money. How
Jeez, Adam, come on.
about now? Is it working?
Nope.
No.
He's been in real life. Adam's been in real life doing real life things. You know what I mean?
And now in my brand new microphone, I got a brand new 750.
It's all right. Hey, how about this? Take a couple minutes. I'm going to grab some water. Jeffrey, if you want to do something before we start, and then we'll just restart the beginning. Yeah?
Sounds like a plan to me. All right. Adam's going to fix his mic. Jason's going to...
Don't worry about it.
I'll be over there in 15 minutes, sweetie.
Ooh. I tickled Jeffrey remotely last week. A couple weeks ago. Now I get to tickle Adam. All right.
All right, let me fix this shit.
No problem.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. What can I do to make Adam feel uncomfortable? And
not a damn thing.
And have Jason not know about it.
Yeah. All right, let me fucking.
I'm still recording, by the way.
I know you are. I'm gonna grab myself another cup of hot coffee because I love coffee. Oh, gotta love technology. Technology's like the government. It's always fucking you in some special way. Oh. I love coffee.
What's up?
Coffee. Next hot cup coming in. God damn it.
I love Adam. You just got a little too far away, buddy. I needed to bring you back.
Yeah.
Ooh,
That's
I
right.
like the sound of that.
Come back to us.
Come back to us, Adam. Wait, did he leave?
I think he's grabbing his other mic.
Ah, gotcha.
Because at least the one that worked.
Yay!
My guess is that most likely there was either a driver issue and
Mm-hmm.
he had to get that all set up.
Yeah,
Does it work now? Does it sound
Uh,
better?
I think so.
I think maybe.
Check microphone testes 1 2 testicles.
No.
Nope.
Fuck my life, bro.
I'm sorry.
Do you got your old mic that you used to use?
Fuck my life in the cock knocker, dude. The shit bricks.
I was telling Kai, this is something podcasters go through. Like, we were recording last night and she just disappeared. And she's like, everything's shut down. I was like, yeah, welcome to podcasting.
Oh yeah, seriously.
Adam and I did an episode with like Boy Meets World, who had like hundreds of thousands of fans, and like the YouTube video started playing and all I had was like echo and I couldn't figure it out for like 2 minutes and it was just repeating and these guys kept going, why do we hear an echo? And it would echo and they'd be like, see, there it is again, and then it would echo and they'd be like, oh, it's going. Yeah, it's all embarrassing.
It's very fucking embarrassing, especially.
But I won't use any of this if that helps. Although we are still live streaming, but nobody's watching. Like if that helps.
Well, that's great. Shit, motherfucks. All right, let's see if this fucking works.
No,
is that working? No, it's not.
Nope.
Fuck.
Dude, take a breath. It's cool. It's cool.
Take a breath. I'll show you my cock later.
Let's see it. How about now?
Oh, there we go. I heard some smooth, buttery voice action there.
Well, fucking
wow.
amen. I don't know what the
There
fuck
it is.
happened. I don't know what the fuck happened to my mic. Brand new fucking mic. I got to write to management now because they sent me a brand new fucking cock knocking mic. This motherfucker is a piece of beautiful fucking garbage. You sons of motherfucker. Oh, hey. Am I still live?
You know, baby.
There he is.
Okay.
I got a Scarlett and I couldn't connect the Scarlett until I downloaded the software and all that stuff. So it's like it takes a little bit of setup with most things.
Well, I literally just used this like when we podcasted with the other Jeffrey and Sean last week, and it was like everybody was like, well, where the fuck did you get that from? I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And today I'm like, no.
I'm sorry.
No. Yeah, buddy.
All right. Well, let's start over again. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Public Access America. My name is Jason. His name is Jeffrey. And his name is Adam. And Adam, I just worship. He's from Adam Has a Beard. He's my friend. He's our brother. He is our cuddle puddle, Mr. Wonderful. And I love it. And I don't know. I wanted to bring you on because there's something, I don't want to dive straight into it, but there's a conversation lacking. Like people are attacking locally in Uvalde. They're attacking the police because the media wants to be mad at that. We're attacking like politicians and they're defending their stance, not based on any conversation, but nobody's asking like gun owners, here's a list of things. Is that outrageous? And so I wanted to get my two favorite gun owners on because you guys are what I call rational, responsible gun owners, not radical, irresponsible. And so I really wanted to get you on to just discuss some of that stuff, you know? But I do want to start, and I'm going to start with Jeffrey and ask, I mean, we had Buffalo, we had the shooting between a Chinese guy and a Taiwanese guy that keeps getting forgotten. We've had like, I think 30 mass shootings because now the media is counting every mass shooting as more than one person shot. So it's increasing all of that. But how is all this in Buffalo, Buffalo and Uvalde and all of that going on? How is that making you feel as a gun owner?
Oh shit. Well, I'm going to approach this from two standpoints. There's as an educator, because I used to teach shooting, and then as an actual gun owner. They don't feel good. Like, let's be real honest, it doesn't feel good because every possible thing that should have, every possible thing that happened, not only could it have been prevented in a lot of different ways, but the response processes and mechanisms that should have taken place didn't.
Yeah,
And
that's a
it literally
conversation.
it literally was broken up one side and down the other.
Right.
And what's really frustrating is that, when we talk about the national conversation, you
Right.
have to remember that it's not right now, it's not just a national conversation because there is a lot of power left to the states to decide this stuff.
Well, I think there's a local conversation to have about the
Mhm.
response. I think there's a statewide response that the people in the states need to have for their representatives, but us being national and not from these places directly, I think
Mhm.
we need to have that broader conversation about the policies people are suggesting. You know,
Right.
instead of 4 senators in Senate saying, "Well, this is what we," no, let's ask gun owners if it's good or bad or not. You
Well,
know,
and that's the problem is that, you know, you're going to like anything else, you're going to see a gambit of responses and from
hmm
gun owners. You'll have the group of people that any law on guns is an infringement is what they'll claim,
right,
and then you'll have the people who are like, well, I'm a gun owner, but this makes me feel so bad that I'm turning in my guns.
right.
And all of that response is it's very wide, it's very broad, and none of it actually addresses the issues. And
Right.
I do think that some of the issues got touched on, and we'll dive into that more.
Okay. I
um
wanted I wanted to ask Adam, like Adam, are you more worried about gun safety? Are you more concerned about getting safer uses and practices, or are you worried about Democrats being handed the ball and like being shoved down a slippery slope?
I'm more worried about that slippery slope, honestly,
Yeah,
because
right.
I mean, everybody that I know is more safety oriented and is okay with all the restrictive laws. It's like, yeah,
Right.
okay, well, don't touch my weapons. That's cool. But you know what? Okay, you want us to jump through these hoops? Cool, we'll jump through those hoops. Oh, you want stricter background checks? Great, that's fine. We're
Mhm.
gonna pass them. That's just fine.
Yeah.
But what's happening is that slope is like infringing on every little thing you could possibly think of. So if you had a traffic ticket that involved a jaywalker that was holding a joint, now it
Right.
becomes a felony hit and run. And guess what? Now you've got some kind of weird
Yeah.
shit on your background, right? So now your background checks are coming back weird. So with these Democrats trying to run the show, guess what? Okay, well, what is it that you're actually after? Is it the dollar? Is it
Mm.
what's your agenda here? I mean,
Right. Well, they want to
well,
make people safe, but I think they have a different view of it. And like
100%.
that's everything. That's why I wanted to put some
mhm.
of this stuff up there just to not put a party on it. But these are suggestions from like every town. They do research and they have like a whole bunch of suggestions, and some of them I don't like. Like this first one about let's just talk about red flag laws. Like what you were saying, I have a real issue on who's determining what a red flag is.
All right.
And we've talked about people using laws as weapons. So I want to ask Jeffrey kind of about that. Like, do you
Mhm.
see that as the slippery slope right there that we need to worry about?
Well, so historically speaking, let's talk about using laws as weapons. So to understand, you know, where the NRA kind of took a weird left turn.
Hmm.
So back in the 60s, the NRA did not really support black people having guns. In fact, there
Right.
was a lot of issues surrounding the Black Panthers owning firearms. Now,
Lots.
lots of issues, and as Adam is fully aware of, you know, people of color having guns was a major problem.
Hmm.
It One of the things that needed to be addressed was, you know, when you looked at the Second Amendment, did the Second Amendment provide that every American was allowed to and responsible for guns? And so you actually saw the NRA propose restrictions on gun ownership at that time, but those restrictions were proposed not on the idea of uh, safety for all firearms owners. It was about the safety of white people from black firearm owners. And so when you look at the laws and how people want to create laws and how they're applied,
Right.
it's very different, because I can understand why somebody wants certain laws to be in place. But when you look at the application, you have to remember that a lot of this comes down to discretion,
Hmm.
and I am going to benefit from that discretion in a way that Adam is not. And
Like
that's
Adam
just a
Right.
real
said, it's a
answer.
misdemeanor or it's a felony. It's up to that person to decide what to charge with, right?
Yeah, it seems
And
like it.
that's what I worry about. A red flag law, yeah, that should determine somebody, but if you use it in one way for a certain set of people and another way for a certain set, then I'm not for that when we don't need that, when background checks should be enough. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah, I mean, you already have your background checks, your fingerprinting, you got your semen samples, your blood
right,
samples, you got
right,
your hair
right.
follicles, you got drug tests, you got these psychological evals. Okay,
Yeah,
that's cool. But then you also want to triple lock every weapon and every, gun law-abiding citizen's locker. Okay, that's cool. I already got like
right.
4 safes in my house. Every single one of my fucking guns has a
Yeah.
trigger lock in them. You know what I mean? And I think that with those people who are, I don't know, I don't want to say as vigilant as I am, but I want to protect my kids. I don't want
Hmm.
my kid to go out and grab my pistol or my AR and take it to
Right.
school, and then all of a sudden we have a shooting situation where I'm going to be in trouble for, because as a parent I'm responsible for. So
You
I think
should
that
be, right?
100%. 100%, dude. If you're going to leave your shit around the house and your kids are going to go because they have some kind of mental instability because you're a shit parent, guess what? That is right back onto your shoulders. Guess who's paying for that? You are. Guess who's going to jail? You are.
Yeah.
Guess who's going to live with the guilt for the rest of their life? The parent.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I think that should be something that's official. If you want to give your 14-year-old an AR-15, then that's your shit. That's you're responsible for
100%.
for that, and you need to take
Mhm.
some sort of insurance out for that.
Yep.
And I want to say that I am talking to two guys that believe in education and training and doing that for youth as well. So,
Oh,
I used to
100%.
teach. I used to teach youth. That's
but
the thing.
you
That's where
guys
I
aren't.
got my start.
Yeah.
You're not the people with 4 guns just laying around under couch cushions and like to
No.
open bottles
Jesus
and stuff.
Christ.
You know what I
Hell
mean?
no.
No.
Like,
Wait, you
so
can open a bottle?
heck yeah, I watch
Yeah,
The
all you got to do
Simpsons.
is just put the barrel right up. And
But seriously, though, you're right, Jason. I mean, between Jeffrey and I mean, we must
Yeah.
have a good small arsenal to supply a small
Right.
country, but we're
Right.
not leaving our shit around.
my
We
stuff's
have,
Right.
locked up.
100%. I mean, I don't care if I'm here by myself. My weapons are still locked up. I don't care if my
Right.
kids are laying in the next room. My weapons are still locked up because there's that element of safety. Are they accessible to me? 100%. Real
Yeah.
quick. I mean, how many times? What does it require? Practice, right? Training. You got to, if you're in a dead sleep, all of a sudden your dog wakes you up. Boom. What's the first step?
Yeah.
You're already trained. You've already
Mhm.
gone through this. You're already half
Mhm.
asleep. Boom, boom. You know where everything's at. You're lock and loaded. Everybody knows what they need to do. They need to duck and hide because no one in your flock is a alpha wolf. You know what I mean?
Right.
No.
And
you know,
so
we just
everybody that I know is training.
we just had a guy crash about a mile down the road and he took off and he was in the woods and my roommate texted me and they were like, "Hey, there's a escaped convict in the woods. My gun's in the other room." And I was like, "You're an asshole because you're telling me like 20 minutes after it happened and now your gun's on the other side of the house and I got to walk through it through the open door house to get to it." And I was like, I want a shotgun. I want a double barrel shotgun because it's intimidating and it's like just what I want,
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, so I want to approach this conversation. I want to start with the education aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I used to teach, and I used to teach hunter safety, and I taught firearm safety on the range. I was the only
Thanks for
person
that, by the way.
I was the only person on the range that I taught at that was non-military. And I took it dead serious because it literally, it is life or death, and especially because
100%.
I was handling live firearms.
Hmm.
It's everybody gets complacent around unloaded guns, but the reality is that if you don't think about it, how do you know that gun is not loaded?
It is loaded.
So to give you some ideas, it's like I was responsible for watching the student that I was teaching. And I was responsible for making sure that they handled their firearms safely. I was responsible for giving them concise and clear instructions. And I was also responsible for if they're not listening, then it is my duty to remove that firearm from them.
100%.
And the one of those things, it's like everybody's excited when it's time to shoot, because it's fun. It really is. Shooting is fun. But that fun can go away really quickly when somebody gets shot.
Yep.
And
Right.
it is incumbent that, yes, we all want to have fun, but we have to do it safely. We have to do it with safety in mind.
Can-
And when you have a kid who is not listening to instructions, who's flagging the
Right.
range, who's
Pointing
fucking
it
barrel
anywhere he
sweeping,
wants, right.
barrel swept me 3 times, I had no problems failing that kid and removing that
Right.
firearm from them. And the reason why is they weren't ready for it. Because
Yep.
if you're
Gonna-
not going to listen to instructions and you're not going to pay attention, you're going to get hurt. You're going to either get hurt or you're going to get somebody hurt or killed.
Yeah. That's gun owner safety training, right?
And that's the thing is that at what point do you have the national conversation of whether or not somebody is ready to own a firearm?
Yeah.
Because the reality is that, yeah, at 18, anybody can own a firearm. The
Mhm.
problem is like anything else, are they actually ready to own a firearm?
Right.
And that's where education is so important, Jeffrey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought to myself, I wouldn't mind an 8-year-old with a bow and arrow. I wouldn't mind a 12-year-old with a revolver. I wouldn't mind a 16-year-old with a long gun. Like I wouldn't mind that person in that education system getting a semi-automatic at 18, and then maybe like at 25 getting an AR-15 or something. Like,
but
more
here's
like,
the thing, like when you talk about a semi-automatic versus an AR-15, what do you think an AR-15 is? It's a semi-automatic.
a longer semi-automatic with more capacity.
I had semi-automatics that weren't AR-15s.
Well, yeah, right. But an AR-15 is uniquely different than a Glock.
Well, I mean, an AR-15 is uniquely different from a Glock, but you can still have a semi-automatic hunting rifle that's not an AR-15.
Okay, right, yes.
And so functionally there is no difference.
I'm just using AR-15 to stand alone as that whole style of weapon.
So one of the things that we have to look at, is this quote unquote military style weapon. What you're looking at in reality is, let's talk about semi-automatic versus manual actions, aka bolt action, pump action, lever action.
Okay.
A lot of those weapons, a lot of those guns have, very strict limitations on how much ammo they can carry.
Right.
Most hunting rifles are 5+1. Most shotguns are 3, 4, 5+1. Lever actions, it depends on how the lever action is set up, but you can get lever actions that are 10+1.
Okay.
And the reality is that a person with a lever action who knows how to shoot is just as deadly as somebody with a semi-automatic who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. The thing is that a person, like, part of the national conversation hasn't been, it's like everybody thinks about AR-15s, but let me ask Adam, what kind of damage do you think I could do with a shotgun that has double-aught buck in it and is a 5+1?
A lot of damage, let me tell you, with that big giant massive fucker. Dude.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that I only need to pull the trigger once and there's 10 to 12 30 caliber pellets that are going to spray over
right.
Big time, dude. Yeah.
But I think a child that knows what it's like to kill something with a bow and arrow begins to learn the consequences before they're using that thing that can kill multiple lives, so that's where I see the training as important. I want to ask though, do you think in a way that for like a younger mind, maybe shooting a gun is a rush, like a drug that they want intense? Certain brains, not every 18-year-old, but certain minds might seek that out as a bigger and bigger and bigger rush.
I don't think so, because my kid, like I started training her and she's deadly at 150 with an AR-15, and I started training her at like 8. So,
okay.
And then like she's become responsible, and the fact of like, how to handle the weapon and how to be around weapons and not barrel check people, not just
but if you don't learn the consequences before the rush, do you go for the rush instead of learning how to use it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I think that it all depends on how you were raised and how you were trained.
Because I saw this guy with an Uzi using it at the pistol range, just scatter shot and everything, and I was like,
that's an Uzi though.
You're just going for, but you're just going for a rush there. There is no trying to educate or get better with the weapon. You just want to You want the
Magnum.
noise. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that certain kids might just get a rush from people's reactions to the noise they make.
So here's the grand question in
Not all
all of
kids.
this. You know, Adam, have you gone hunting before?
Never. No. Define hunting for for people or for game for farming.
For game, for farming.
No, never, not once.
You,
How many?
you've
how
never
many-
shot it. You never shot a living animal before?
Define human. Is it human or animal? Actual animal.
Non-human.
Okay. No.
This is some serial killer splitting of hairs here, buddy. I just want to say that.
Well, human is the most dangerous game if you've read the book.
100%. That's right.
And if it agrees and signs the contract, there's no reason you can't do it.
And here's why, though. So listen, I grew up in a situation where I've never hunted. I mean, we weren't hunters. We weren't.
Right.
So I never had the opportunity to hunt. I mean, now, do I want to learn? Yes. Do I want to go with anybody? Yes. But I want to learn the right way. I don't want to learn like, oh man, we're just gonna, we're gonna cruise down the road. Like I've heard many times, cruise down the road and shine the spotlight. Oh man, there's something right there. Shoot that. That's not hunting.
Plus, Adam growing up, getting food was a lot easier than protecting himself. So he needed to learn.
We grew our own food because we were poor. You know what I mean?
Right.
So no, I've never been hunting. And do I want to? Yes. Have I taken many hunter ed safety courses? Yes. Nice. Have I actually got to shoot an animal? No.
Okay.
And then let me tell you my experience, because I have killed more animals than I care to count. And one of the things that I will tell a person is that the first time you kill an animal, the first time I grew up with a BB gun shooting birds. That was my first animal kill was I killed a little bird with a BB gun. And there is a rush to it, but then when you walk up to it and you pick up that dead bird, there's a finality of life that you start to appreciate, is that I did this. I am capable of doing this.
Yeah. And there's a fork in the road right there in the mind. People.
And the first time you kill a larger game bird with a shotgun, you have that same reaction. But for whatever reason, the first time you kill a large animal like a deer or an antelope or a bear or whatever, or an elk, there is this finality that you feel that changes in a lot of ways. You gain a new appreciation for life and the sacrifice of animals that you kill, and which is a lot of reasons why, as I learned a little bit more about Native American culture, I grew to appreciate the fact that, they gave thanks to the animal for sustaining their life.
Yeah.
But that finality, it didn't just stop at, oh, hey, I just, killed an animal. It was like, I ended a life, and depending on where this gun is pointed, I could end more.
Right.
And so you learn very quickly how to be very, very careful about how you shoot, knowing that if you fuck up, somebody else could pay the price for you being an idiot.
Yep.
And it's a hard lesson to learn for some people. I've had friends that have shot holes in their truck because they're fucking around and not paying attention. Yeah, I had one of my friends, the only thing he bagged all year was a Dodge Ram 1500.
Wow.
So he filled his tag then.
Pretty much. We've all known or heard stories of people who shot their hunting buddy.
Yeah.
Because they're not paying attention. Yeah, well, that's a whole different story.
That's a whole other pile of shit we don't want to step in.
But even still, once again, that boils down to something that you and I have talked about: training, understanding, keeping your finger off the fucking trigger unless you're going to pull it.
Yep. Wow, that's what Doxy just said in our chat. Like, respect it. Don't put your finger on it unless you intend to use it.
100%, man.
Exactly.
Don't pull your weapon.
Hi, Maddox. It's good to hear you on there. That's mine and Debbie's friend, Maddox.
Yeah. Nice. Well, welcome to the show. What I want my first thought. My first thought was go to your local gun shops and ask them what their policy is about selling guns to children or younger children. And ask
number
them
one, they can't.
Well, number two, they won't.
They won't.
Can't, won't.
Well,
They're not going to jail so that way your kid can have a gun.
okay.
What now? If you as an adult, if you buy a gun and then you give it to your kid, that's on you.
Right.
There's literally nothing that can stop you from doing
Well,
that.
I'm still considering a kid a young adult. I'm not considering him a child.
Well, and this is where it's like, I mean, mentally you have
So
that
you're
question
saying
of,
they have no discretion. Any 18-year-old that walks into a gun shop has to be sold a gun if they want it.
no.
That's what
They
I'm
have to pass.
saying.
They have to pass
No.
a background check.
Have
And
to.
and then if they pass the background check, they can have it no matter what. There's no discretion for the store owner to say, I don't
Nope.
want to sell to you.
Nope,
Wow.
because you run into the legal question of, what legally are they allowed to do? Now, for me, when I was teaching and giving people a hunting license,
hmm
I very much had the discretion of deciding whether or not they could
Right.
be
Who would train
and
and stuff.
and for concealed weapons permits in different states, some states, Washington for example, all I had to do is go down and apply and I got my concealed weapons permit. Now granted, I worked for the feds, I have a hunting
Yeah.
I have an education, a hunter safety education card.
But I can do the same thing
shows
in
that I've gone
Florida, and
through
I'm
that.
blind.
I don't have to pass, basically as long as my background check
Okay.
clears. That's and your background check is going to look at if there's anything nationally that they need to be aware of, if there's anything locally that they need to be aware of.
Well, of course. Well,
And
except for the Charleston loophole that says if it takes longer than a certain period, it's automatically approved. But would you be in favor of gun shop owners being in a discussion to reform some of that stuff, to give them more discretion?
I don't know. That's kind of a slippery one too. Because now you're putting gun owners and gun shop owners into the political realm where they.
Well, I don't want to make it political. I'm just saying at a local level,
right.
If the parents in a certain community are like, we just don't want you to sell to kids that are still in high school. Like, can you wait till they're out of high school? If a lone kid comes in and says, "Can I get 2 AR-15s and 5,000 rounds of ammo?" Can the guy go?
Get it.
Could the guy be like, "Oh, you were just in here yesterday for So
how do you prove that the kid is still in school?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the grand question is that unless you have like whatever the local school system software is talking to that national database to say yes, this person is still in school, what are you gonna do?
But that's what I'm saying.
Can you show me your school ID card, or are you capable of lying and telling me that you're not in school?
Well, every town suggests gun shop reforms. So what I'm saying is there's people that are going to say to gun shop owners, this is what you need to do. Or gun shop owners can be a part of the conversation and say that's rational, but that's not. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think and Adam, maybe you have some insight in on this too. I think that there is a legitimate discussion to be had as to whether or not somebody is showing some tendencies that might make you say, I don't know if I want to give this person a gun. Like I have a feeling that they're out to do something not
That's
so
what
good.
I'm
Like,
asking. Does the shop owner have any place to say not today, or you know what I mean? I don't know.
And that's the tough part.
That's really tough. It's absolutely tough because, like, in one hand, you want the gun shop owner wants to make that dollar. On the other hand, that gun shop owner doesn't want to just put their guns out there anywhere because, in cases of the shooting of who was that sniper that was from Tacoma and had that kid with him and they were just shooting.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? So they bought a gun from one of the pawn shops and then it linked them back to them, and gun shop owners don't want that kind of negative publicity, so I think they are
nationally these shootings create more gun sales, but locally Uvalde isn't going to sell another AR-15. You know what I mean?
I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think the biggest problem that you're going to have is that you either have to come up. Most people are going to be subjective about what it is. Let's say 18-year-old Adam comes in, and I'm somebody who's prejudiced against brown people. All I got to do is take one look at Adam and go, I think you're up to no good, and I'm not going to give you a gun. And that doesn't necessarily say whether or not Adam's gone through training. Because what's the difference between an 18-year-old who's just, who's out of high school
Hmm.
or still in high school, on an 18-year-old who just finished boot camp and, now has a set number of hours behind an AR-15.
I'll tell you, it's the access to the school.
Well, in the case of Uvalde, that didn't really matter. He didn't.
Well,
he
yeah,
had
there was
access.
there was other, but he never went to that school, right? It was just where he ended up. What I'm saying is, you don't have an access pass to the school once you're no longer in the school, so that kind of changes things.
Well, he didn't have an access pass to that school either, but there he
No,
was.
yeah, how
And
did he
so,
get?
so that's
Anyway,
so
I
that's
don't want to
so
get
that's
into
a
that.
that's a whole nother level of fucked up.
Right.
So,
Big time.
so
Like I said,
so
that's local things that local people need to address. The response and the problems and the mistakes locally, I can't have an opinion on that. That's what the local people need to fix. You know what I
so
mean?
one of the biggest
100%.
questions has been red flag laws, and red
And
flag laws are
your friend agrees with me, by the way, that they need discretion. So 2 for 2. I love it.
so one of the biggest things has been red flag laws. Red flag laws are a really interesting conversation,
Hmm.
and you can make the point that red flag laws need to happen. Now, here's where this gets tough is that in our current justice system, we have nothing that says that as long as you've made contact with the police, that you're any sort of danger to society. It's
Right.
only once you've been convicted or once you've been sent off to a mental health institution. For example, the kid that shot up Parkland, he had like over 100 contacts with law enforcement in the year and a half
Right.
prior to him shooting up Parkland. But
Damn.
none of those had resulted in his arrest.
Right.
None of those resulted in him being committed to a mental institution
That's
of any
right.
kind.
And in fact, only
So
2 out of 60 multiple shooters had any mental illness at all. And I want to make that point. It's not mental illness, it's assholes.
That's
here's the
100%
thing.
true.
I mean, it is
you can be
assholes,
an
but here's the
asshole
thing.
with like a misogynistic tendency. That's not a mental illness. I just don't want people to think that schizophrenics are like out there buying AR-15s to kill people, because that's something that schizophrenics do. Not all mental illnesses lead to gun violence.
And I will agree with you. I will agree with you on that.
But every
But-
asshole that
But the
shoots
problem.
kids
But
has
here's
a
the thing.
problem.
I'd say anybody who's
Right.
just out there to shoot anybody has some type of a
Right.
problem. Now the
Yeah.
question is that when you have that many contacts with law enforcement, is there something going on that should raise the flag that says, you know what, this person has some things going on in their life that I don't trust them having a gun?
Yes.
Like, is it one contact with law enforcement? I mean, a speeding ticket
That's
could do
that's
that.
the slippery slope, like Adam
Bingo.
was saying.
What classifies,
Right.
in a lot of cases, for example,
Felony.
even if, okay, so only convicted, or if you're being investigated for a felony, and if you're being
Right.
investigated
Exactly.
and if you're being investigated for a felony, what happens when you are, those charges are dropped? Does that
Mhm.
mean that you get your rights get restored right away?
Right.
And that's the issue is that you have to, with red flag laws, you would still have to come up with a subjective measure that says, hey, if you're being flagged if you're making contact with law enforcement for all of these things, and you're being looked at for all of these things, we're going to
Mhm.
remove guns from your house. And for a duration of X, Y, and Z time afterwards, you're not going to have access to them until you can prove that you've done X, Y, and Z things, and that you're not going to be in trouble with law enforcement. Now, that's where this gets problematic, because even in our justice system, we're still innocent until proven guilty. So an
Mhm.
innocent person who has not been proven guilty of a crime, who's still being looked at for something,
Right.
is potentially, their rights are being violated under
Yep.
the way that the Constitution is written. So you end up having
Yeah.
this issue of whether or not you actually have a legal ability to take away somebody's guns because they are not guilty of
That's
a crime that should
okay.
remove their firearms.
Because there's a suggestion here that says prohibit people with dangerous histories from owning guns or having guns. Would you agree with that? That people that have been
We already do it.
convicted multiple times, right?
Yeah, we
That's
already do it.
That's
Right,
already
okay,
that's already a
so
thing.
Then we're agreeing. We're in agreement of that. And
It's
this
the
also
question
goes
of
with
if they're not convicted. That's the problem. That's the real problem.
right. Well,
Is that
if they weren't
you're
convicted, they didn't do it, and there's
Look,
nothing I can do about it.
and that's the thing is that for example, this is where this is something that, is going to require a greater conversation. How many, Adam, maybe you might
Mhm.
know, how many people do you know that have been abused by a significant other, that they have been abused multiple times by that significant other, but they
Right.
fail to charge that person because
Agreed.
either they're
Many,
afraid.
many.
Do I want that person owning a gun?
No.
No. The cops know what's going on, but they can't
Mhm.
prosecute somebody who is unwilling to have a person press charges against them,
That's right.
No.
unless there is a law that says we know what's happening. Since they can't prosecute, the state will prosecute for them.
And
Well,
that's
there's
what happens on a regular basis now. I mean, it's like if you look at some of the
okay.
domestic violence issues here, I mean, it happens. So if in one case the police show up to domestic violence house, let's say next door neighbors, random name, Monica gets beat up by Steve, and
Mhm.
Steve has had no scratches, no bruises, but his hands have a lot of contusions on his knuckles, wrists, scratches on his arms from defensive wounds from Monica. Now, Monica's battered, bruised, beaten up, bloody, and she refuses to press charges because she knows what an asshole. I forgot
Right.
his name, whatever his name was. I fucking
Douche.
Steve.
Steve. So now this is where the state steps in and says, "Hey, guess what? The state is actually going to arrest somebody, and the
Right.
aggressor happens to be Steve. Steve is going to jail." Now, when it gets to the court time, Monica steps in front of the judge. Judge just says, how do you want to press charges? She says no, because
Nope.
he knows what an asshole Steve is.
Mhm.
This is where the state steps in and says the state will press charges on behalf.
Right.
And that's when that whole slippery slope of like, oh shit, Steve just got fucked. You know what
Well,
I mean?
yeah, Steve because you don't know who
Well,
the
one, don't lay
aggressor
hands
is.
on a woman. How about that, motherfucker?
Well, of course, but women don't lay hands on a man, you know what I mean?
That
Like,
too.
That
sorry
too.
about that. It goes both ways. Like
It does.
domestic violence goes both ways, and I'm not putting blame on anybody. But would you feel in that situation that it would be okay when you get to the scene for the police to make the determination to remove all the weapons from the house and hold them until a judge deems it okay for them to have the guns?
In the state of Washington, they do.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do.
That's another
Unfortunately.
proposal. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know because then what is the period of time? Like how long
Year.
before you get it
It's a
back?
year.
Right. Okay.
It's a
Or
year,
if you're prosecuted, you don't get it. You don't get them back.
Right.
Mhm.
But if you're found innocent, you don't get them back right then and there.
Oh no, not right on the spot. No, you have to jump through hoops. You have to go through the appropriate classes. You got to go through
Okay.
your education. You got to go through the mental
That kind of
mental health
sucks if
check.
you're found innocent.
Guess what? Then
Damn.
don't get in a situation that's going to make you put you in a shit like that.
Well, I
that's hot water
agree.
you don't want. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And I think that all of us we strongly agree that if you like your weapons, I know I do. I sleep naked with my weapons when I'm by myself. Let's get that clear. But I don't want to lose my weapons. I'm not going to do anything that's going to endanger my family, my rights,
Right.
my community.
Right.
I don't want anything that's going to take away those kind of weapons. Because
That's what I'm saying is that
know?
there's a group of, let's say, 5 million people, and there's maybe 10,000 that feel that everybody should have guns and kill everybody and have nuclear bombs all the time.
God, Jesus.
Right? Like there's those people that don't see
I don't want to have
restrictions.
to upkeep a
Right?
nuclear bomb.
Yeah,
Right,
me
but
either.
Is that where
dude.
we're headed? Well, I have a higher nuclear yield bomb than you do. That's not where we're talking.
Look, I don't want my dick to glow in the
But
dark.
a lot of
I do.
responsible, a lot of responsible gun owners don't want that portrayal of them. And
That's
I want to say before I ask Jeffrey about this one is, I found Giffords, and Giffords is like the NRA for responsible gun owners. And I think that giving people that information, maybe go look it up and see if that's something for you. I think the NRA protects your rights by protecting the most radical end of you. They're trying to protect those 1,000 people, and I think they're just using your dues to do it. But Giffords,
That's why I'm not an NRA member.
well, I would hope nobody was, but if you are an NRA member, maybe try and look at Giffords and see if maybe you can be a part of the conversation, because that's what they're doing. Instead of, it's a group of gun owners that communicate and discuss these things, like these policies, and they have opinions that are easier. But I want to ask Jeffrey about this one, and it's called Block Concealed Carry Reciprocity. And I have no idea what that means.
Block concealed carry reciprocity.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Like they're wanting to block the reciprocity of it, or they're talking about, like, is it block BLOCK or BLOC?
Oh, BLOCK.
Okay, so
it would gut state standards for who may carry hidden loaded handguns in public.
Interesting. Okay, so
what is reciprocity?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking Jeffrey. There's just one word in there. I just don't understand.
So, reciprocity. There's reciprocity.
I'd like to learn that. I'm sorry, Jeffrey, but when you throw in big words like this, I mean, you're trying to attack a certain thing like concealed carry. How about use simple words where people are going to understand what that means? You know what I mean?
Well, reciprocity is a legal term in this case. So and it comes from the word reciprocate. So, for example, if I give you a handy, I would hope that you would reciprocate and give me one. Right. Same thing when it comes to concealed carry licenses. If I have a concealed carry license and the state of Washington says that I'm good to have a concealed carry license, then what I am hoping is that the state of, let's say, Montana or Idaho or Oregon or whoever would say, yeah, what you have done is enough for us, and we recognize your concealed carry permit as valid in our state. Okay. Now, Washington does not have reciprocity with every state. Like, for example, California doesn't recognize Washington's process as strict enough.
Yeah.
But in, like, the state of Texas, for example, it doesn't matter. You're allowed to carry. It recognizes every concealed carry permit out there.
Right.
Montana is very similar in that regards. Is that anybody who's gotten their concealed carry permit is good to carry, but if a Montanan with a concealed carry permit shows up in, say, California, it's not going to be valid. And other states have even different, even stranger laws yet. Like, so for example, in Illinois, your concealed carry might be good, but in Chicago proper, it won't be.
Mm-hmm.
Because Chicago has tried to outlaw guns, and well, that doesn't really work out all that well for them, because the people who don't have guns are, well, the people who are following the law.
Yeah. And Indiana, by the way, they didn't outlaw guns,
so reciprocity is the idea, the concept of being able to issue a permit and have it be accepted, kind of like our driver's licenses. For example, a driver's license that's valid in Washington is valid in every single other state, because what you're saying is that you've gone through the required, training, the required testing in order to prove that you know how to drive a vehicle. And so driver's licenses are reciprocal across all 50 states, but concealed carry permits are not. So California has some restrictions, like they want to have enhanced background checks. They demand that you have a certain number of class hours in order to get a concealed carry permit. They require you to have insurance now, I believe, or it might just be San Francisco requires insurance now. But they're moving towards requiring gun owners to provide proof of insurance in order to be able to carry concealed.
San Jose just enacted that too.
San Jose, that's who I was thinking of. It was right around the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Whereas in states like Texas or Montana, for example, or Washington, we do go through enhanced background checks, yes, but there's no requirements on whether or not you've had any sort of training whatsoever. Arizona, surprisingly, you have to prove that you've at least taken basic firearm safety, and a hunter safety card does just that.
That's how it was in Chicago. I needed to take training before I could have a gun.
And so, being able to, all I had to do was literally show my hunter safety card and say, yeah, I've taken hunter safety. I know how to handle a gun. And they're like, all right, cool, that's good enough. And in which case, for concealed carry permits, I'm always on the side of the education, because a gun owner who doesn't have the education, enough education and enough time training and practicing, generally are not safe. And on top of that, one of the things that you have to remember about concealed carry is that the safety aspect of it is only one part. Most people don't tend to think about legally what you're allowed to do if you have like, for example, if I'm out concealed carrying and I go to Target, for example, and somebody decides to steal a bunch of stuff. Adam, am I allowed to pull my gun out and stop them?
No.
Why?
Because why are you going to pull it out for?
Citizen's arrest?
No, nope.
You can't do
not
that.
valid.
Nope.
Okay,
In
I don't
the
know.
state of Washington, the
Yeah,
law
you
in the
can't.
state of Washington is that you have to prove that your life or the lives of others are in imminent threat of danger.
100%.
Nice.
And somebody stealing
is not a threat to your life.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so we've actually seen quite a few cases here where gun owners try to stop a theft, and now they're charged with brandishing, and they're
100%.
charged with assault with a deadly weapon, and now they're going to lose their right.
Mm.
Yep.
Because if you don't understand the gun law in your state, you will lose the right to that gun. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Or, for example, Adam, do you know what duty to retreat laws are?
No,
We have that in Florida.
So duty to retreat laws are, if you have the ability to walk away from the situation, you have to walk away. You cannot
Right.
pull out your gun. And if it's shown that you had the ability to walk away and you didn't, you're going to be charged with brandishing and assault.
Yes. In Florida, you have they call it the 3-step rule. If you step back 3 steps and they come towards you 3 steps, that was you're trying to retreat, and then you can now shoot to kill.
Yep. For example, castle doctrine. Do you know what castle doctrine is?
Your house, your castle, you can defend it.
Now, here's the thing about castle doctrine.
Oh,
Castle
boy.
doctrine is
It's
not
slippery
universal.
too.
Was I right?
Castle
Yeah.
doctrine is not universal. So, for example, in some states, castle doctrine just refers to what's inside your house.
Right.
Okay.
In other states, it extends to your physical property
Yes.
and your assets
right.
and your business. Now, in Washington state, for example, castle doctrine does apply to your business. So if you have a storefront, you are allowed to carry a gun. And if somebody threatens your life inside of your store, you can shoot to kill.
Yeah.
However, if they are stealing from you, you can't do that. And that actually just happened here not that long ago.
Isn't that
Up in
Sumerian?
Tacoma, up in Tacoma.
An eye for an eye? Like you don't need a bazooka to stop like a
So-
person, right?
Right.
Like an eye for an eye, that's basic. Can I just
But-
ask real quick, are you for background checks in whatever form you guys end up deciding on everyone? On
As much as
every
I
gun
hate it,
sale, on
As
every
much
gun
as I
sale.
hate it, I agree with it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing is that without a background check, how do I know who is a prohibited possessor or not? It's
Right.
not like
100%.
you have something tattooed on your head that says convict.
Legal. Yeah,
Right.
legal, convict. Yeah.
I think it's
I'm
You
kind
have
of
to
a,
you have to check.
yeah,
in
it's like
order
a
to
badge
make
of
sure.
honor, right? It's like getting your
It-
driver's license at 16. You kind of
It
want
is
it, right?
It is the best fucking feeling to be able
Right.
to go to own and legally own a firearm and be able to carry that, because Washington's open carry. You know,
Right.
I open carry, or sometimes I carry concealed because I have that permit. But I was always under the impression, you know what? If I want that CPL, I want to go get that hunter safety class, and I
Hell
want to be
yeah.
able to demonstrate and have those classroom hours and have that training. So that's my thinking.
I also want
to
you to
be-
have that.
To be responsible owner of a fucking firearm that can and possibly could end a life in instance of imminent danger, or
Right.
protecting my family or my friends, or
Mhm.
some kind of, Texas shootout where something
Yeah.
weird happens and aliens come out with dildos and probe us. I have something to protect us. You know what I mean? I want to be able to go through those classes and be able to present myself and to be like, hey, you know what? Cool. Hell yeah.
Right.
This is what
Well,
I
and
now.
even as a gun owner, it's like I need to understand the law, because I don't want to
100%, dude.
I don't want to pull my gun out in a place or have my gun on me in a place that's going to get me arrested. For example,
Yep.
Adam, can you concealed carry in a bar or tavern in Washington?
You cannot.
Adam, can you concealed carry
Love
on
it.
public transit in Washington?
You cannot.
No, you can.
Oh, you can?
You can concealed carry on transit in Washington.
I was thinking that's why I've always owned my truck. I always have my truck with me. I'm like, you know what? Fuck, I'm not.
No,
running
that one
city
was the
bus.
one that actually surprised me, because there's some
Yeah.
places where you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't.
Can you carry it in a
concealed carry
church? Yes, you can, because you know what? God, you ain't my
There
dad.
it is. Prohibit guns in sensitive areas.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
schools clearly
That
don't.
just makes
don't-
sense, right?
Yeah, it makes just
Okay.
perfect sense. If it's common sense, I mean, as a gun owner, you got to have a little bit of common sense. Like,
You can't go to
you're not
court.
gonna-
You
you're
can't
not
go
going
to
to court
with a gun, right?
You can't go to a school with a weapon. I mean,
right.
you got. Come on, man. Kids are gonna ask, "Oh, hey, yeah, what?
Well,
Mr. So and so
that's-
has got a gun on him." And
They
then
might
guess
just
what?
grab your gun and shoot it, because that's what kids do.
Little
You-
fuckers.
Right. Like, who's like, and that's the thing, is like, how many teachers out there do you think are actually trained with firearms?
Zero.
Oh, I hate that one. 'cause
Very
I
few.
hate. It's hard, isn't it,
Teachers
Jason?
don't have body armor. You
They
know
don't
what
have.
I mean?
They don't have. They have
Fuck
so much
that.
other shit that they have to worry about. They
Like
have
shooting
they're
someone
so
they just
underpaid.
taught? No way.
Yeah, come on. I mean, I think
put,
that's
like, Why are we burning books to replace them with guns and thinking that's going to create people that can give
Exactly,
us
dude.
mental health therapy? You know,
Yeah.
Like,
You know, and so that's where
It's so hard.
that's where this next piece comes in, is that part of the common sense to gun control is also expanding things that are also common sense. Adam,
I think
having
so.
had school children, how easy is it to get your kid mental health help outside of school?
100% difficult.
Adam, how would you feel if schools had more mental health presence within schools, like counselors, so that way
I would
if
be
they
happy.
needed, so if a
Can I
student
object?
needed to come out of class for their mental health appointment,
Can I
you would have
object
more
to
access.
something in there?
Mhm.
Let's
Yeah.
hear.
I don't necessarily want the government in control of my kids' mental health.
I'm not
Good
saying
point.
that they are in
Good-
control of
good-
it. I'm saying that
Well,
it's a
you-
resource
point.
that's there.
We've already said that government schools are government, and so a teacher
Mhm.
can't lead kids in prayer. I just have a real issue with HIPAA and like scope creeping. Like, oh well,
Mhm.
here's a way to collect information about these young kids, so later on we can say, well, when you were in 4th grade, Tommy, like I
You
don't.
drew a bunch of dicks on the
Nope.
wall.
Right. So I would
Peekaboo.
prefer that all therapy was by like non-partisan that way.
Well, that's
Okay, so can I interject, Jeffrey? I'm really sorry,
for it.
my man. I agree with you, Jason, but I also agree with Jeffrey. I
Yeah,
agree.
you have kids, I don't.
Look, I want to be able to know, like here's a really good example. Okay, I am really fortunate to have a really good school system where the principal calls me, we have a
good.
conversation, and we talk about, hey, so and so, it's like, there's a mental health issue, and the blah blah blah, not giving names, but this is something you need to be aware of. This could have happened, and this was stopped. Oh, great. Okay, so what are we doing to protect that kid's mental health? I mean, is somebody talking to them? Is it somebody in school? Is it somebody out of school? How's that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, without giving too much information, we set them up with somebody outside of the school system.
Mhm.
Fan-fucking-tastic. That's what I like to hear. Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I like that.
My issue is with, somebody, there's a counselor at school.
That would have saved kids in Michigan, by the way.
Oh, 100%, right?
Mhm.
They had an outlet or somebody to speak with. Yeah, great.
Mhm.
So I have that issue. You know what I mean? It's like in
Yeah.
schools, I don't want somebody to be like, well, Blacka said that I could do this
Right.
and that.
Does your mother
sorry.
touch you? I have to report that now.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
exactly.
There's less privacy, but I do like the referral idea. Like, we're seeing something that there's a counselor we use, you know?
Yeah.
But now here's the difficult part is that, for low income families or
Mhm.
for families that are already stretched thin, missing work means missing meals.
Well, more
Yeah.
Or rent
telehealth,
or
more
whatever.
telehealth is
So
Yeah.
how do you set up access,
Yeah.
in a way that makes sense? Now, I
Your
agree.
take.
Like I do agree that there are worries about having counselors in the schools that are employed by the government, but at the same time too,
Yeah.
having counselors doesn't mean that it's strictly available to the government to access.
That
Telehealth,
would
like
be
we
nice.
said, like you can have rooms set up as telemental health
That would be
systems,
nice. Like
especially as
contractors that aren't getting
exactly.
paid by like the government itself, but
Well, I mean, they're going to have to get paid by the
well,
government if
yeah,
you're
but they
going to
could
have that.
also be an
Or
organization that collects donations and gets funding. You know what I mean?
right, exactly. But having that space for kids that
Yeah,
are that where they can go and have easy access during
yeah.
school hours, I honestly think makes a huge difference, and I
And
think
It
could
somebody
make
does.
a huge difference
somebody
because
created
that help
an
is different.
anonymous an app where you could report people anonymously for students, and I can't remember who did that, but yeah, that's an app you can use now. I like that. Giving students the power for early reporting to me is crucial because if you can get a kid that's crying before he kills and you can solve that, then he's not going to kill, he'll stop crying because every kid is pretty amazing. And I want to say, like, when you're told that immigrants are coming in the country to kill you, and you're told that one portion of the population is coming to kill you, and you're told that that can happen at any time, and you need to protect yourself and you need to arm yourself because a war is coming, people will see that war and try and kill. And so a lot of it is this rhetoric that parents could just make it mundane. We were talking about sex. If you have that sex talk with your kids so much that it's boring, they're less likely to go out and just want to experiment and get pregnant because they know everything. It's the same thing with guns. I think we need that communication. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then I wanted to throw Ted Cruz's suggestion in here, and this is inevitable. This is the price we pay for our freedoms. So some kids die, but we get to keep our guns. That's what's more important.
Wow. This is that Mexico Ted Cruz.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Raphael.
Fuck him. Fuck him.
Okay.
You know what, Ted Cruz? Come fight me. 1600 Pennsylvania Ave. Knock on the front door, fucker.
Well, what he's doing
an
is
idiot.
standing up for what he thinks you guys believe.
Shit.
know?
No,
God damn, I don't believe any of that.
All right,
that's bullshit.
cool.
I love
That's-
guns, but I love kids more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if somebody said, hey, man, you got to choose your guns or your kids. Well, bye, kids.
Right. How about rewriting history and filling our history books with things that don't cause grievance, so kids don't want to kill because they don't know what LGBT is, you know?
Oh, my fuck.
Yeah, I
Dude,
know.
what kind
So
of...
basically,
Get 'em.
if we whitewash it, whitewash it all,
Let's brown wash it, dude. Brown, you know what?
Right.
Brown people... Brown
fuck it,
people
rainbow
love-
wash it.
Rainbow wash it, dude. Get fucking A, man. We
And
get
then,
such a happier life. Go ahead, Jason.
here's an easy one. Just elect more radical Democrats, and then we won't have a say, and they'll just take everything.
What in the...
No, sorry.
fuck
These
is
were some
happening?
ideas I just put in there. How would you guys feel about safe storage? Like you do that anyway, right?
Dude,
What do you
anyway.
mean? Yeah,
do
like,
that?
your shit in the
having
safes?
having actual requirements that you have safes that you lock your firearms up in.
Oh,
Right.
I got that as
Or
soon as I had a baby.
cases or whatever, right?
Yeah. Oh no, the cases ain't gonna do shit. You want them in the
Cases
safe
won't.
for sure.
You want them in a safe.
Right.
As soon as
So-
I had my baby girl, I was like, you know what? I got to put all my guns in safes. You got to start
Mm.
thinking about safety
Right.
aspect of thing. You know, so my gun, that's a no brainer.
Yeah.
Right.
I think any rational gun owner would have a safe.
100%.
And for me it was always a
Mm.
struggle because we're always moving and bouncing around. But the
Mhm.
moment we stopped moving, I started looking into safe options, and then I finally found one that worked for me.
Yep.
Okay. I have one for Jeffrey, I think.
Liberty
got-
Safe Company too. Go ahead.
Repeal restrictions on gun trace data. The Titan
What?
Amendment. So the government isn't allowed to research gun violence or what happens, so we can't really
What?
target any policies.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so the
Mhm.
idea is to repeal it so we can research it so that we don't have to say, Adam, give up your gun, because we can target it to the group of people that's most at risk. You know what I mean?
You and I have talked about this, Jason.
Uh-huh, yeah.
When it comes to the shootings, you either, the biggest discussion points have been from the left, it's a gun problem. From the
Right.
right, it's a mental health problem.
Right.
Now, what are you going to do if you don't have any way to prove that it's one or the other? Well,
Right.
you do nothing.
Or do everything. One
Or do
side wants
everything.
to do everything against everybody, and the other side doesn't want to do anything for anybody.
And so, if you
Welcome to
don't-
America, fuckers.
Because
Right.
America.
Exactly.
America.
So if you don't study what's happening, and if you
Right.
don't learn what's happening, you're never going to actually target. the problem. You know,
Right.
a lot of what you see are symptoms of the problem. The question is what is the actual problem?
Right.
Because there's the issue of there are a bunch of gun owners out there that are absolutely responsible, that you maybe have had mental health issues in the past, but are they're medicated, they go to therapy, they're
Yeah.
perfectly normal functional citizens, and they do all of these other things that they need to do, and they own guns. Then you have people who maybe don't do any of that. It's the reality is that without doing any of the research as to what the issue is, maybe the issue is guns, maybe the issue is mental health, maybe the issue is socioeconomic, and people do things in order to make money and put food on the table. There are so many different aspects that you could potentially research down through, but because they are not allowed to research any of it, you will never know what potential issues there are out there, and that doesn't
Right.
make any sense.
So I guess
Makes
the
zero
question,
sense.
Adam, is would you rather that the government did that because that's what we pay our taxes for, or would you rather it was an independent group,
That's
like a corporation of some sort,
Uh,
whatever
know-
it is, organization? I hate orgs, so I'm not a fan of org. So do you want the government to do it, or would you rather people did, like Dan or Jeffrey? Would you rather Jeffrey did it, or
look, if
would you
Jeffrey was going to do my
rather-
background check, I'd like him to look at it and see, like, all right, that's cool.
Well, I
But-
mean, to look into the reasons that this stuff is happening, to base policies around it.
Oh, okay. If you're looking for reasons like that, you want somebody
Right.
that's going to be super analytical. You don't want somebody who's going to be biased.
Right.
I'd like an individual company. Like
Okay.
if Jeffrey
Me
had
too.
a company that had somebody say his whole fleet of people,
Right.
his whole people, all their job was to do was investigate these things. And they would come with accurate statistical numbers and say, hey,
Right.
these are the facts. Take a look at this, and you need to understand it. And this is why. I would be okay with that.
I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm a guy that has a gun. I give a fuck. So I did
Yes.
this. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
and for me, like, as a researcher, confirmation bias is always the biggest issue.
Mhm.
Yep.
If the NRA did the study, I would call bullshit on it.
Right.
Yep.
If some
If Joe
organization,
Biden did, you'd be like,
if some
Oh,
organization that said, we want to
Kamarama.
remove all guns from all households did the study, I would call confirmation bias
Bullshit.
on that as well.
Yep.
Right.
It's like the fact of the matter is that you have to look at it like, and this is where I think it lies within the realm of academia.
Yep.
You have to be able to research this in a place where the issue is going to be researched using data that exists,
I agree.
and you're just going to have to look at it from that perspective. And there's always going to be the want and desire to cherry pick what data gets included and what data gets
Sure.
excluded.
But
And
give us
that's-
all the data, and then we'll all jury pick what we want.
Well, and that's the thing is that
At least we'll have
from-
all the data.
right.
from a data analytics perspective, if you have the more data you have, you can find out where your correlation is
Mhm.
affected and where it isn't affected.
That's right.
Multivariate equations are one of the biggest things that we use. Like when I did R programming, for example, you could take 8 different sets of data, and you could easily see which data sets helped improve
Yeah.
your correlations and which data sets made your correlation weaker.
Right.
And so you could sit down and go, so this piece right here, which states that did this, they actually saw a reduction in, whatever, or
Mhm.
states that did this, you actually saw more. It's one of
Yeah.
those things where data analysis is it's the tail of the tape. And maybe you don't have all the data you need, and that's always the bitch about being a data analyst. Is that
Right.
there's
You're not
always
getting
going to
all
be more.
aspects.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's always going to be more that you want and that you're not going to have access to, or that you can't get access to,
Right.
Yeah.
and that's the problem.
But
And
I can
until
either
somebody
I can-
says that
I can
you
guess.
get it, that's there's no guessing. That's
No,
the
what I'm
thing
saying
about-
is I can guess at what's hurting my body, or I can take the test to tell me what's doing it. The analytic version is getting the test and finding out what it is instead of just randomly guessing.
Well, and that's the thing is like, even when you do the test is just one in a series of tests.
Mhm.
Because the reality is that everybody's going to take it and they're going to test it. Then they're going to take what you tested and then they're going to test it. That's the
Right.
peer review process.
Hopefully.
And with all of those tests, you're going to have you're going to end up coming to some type of consensus that agrees
Right.
with either your methodologies or your analytical methods, or you're going to have people who call bullshit. And
Hmm.
that's where this gets really tough.
That's what
I'm going to
science is.
I
That's why it's
Yeah,
awesome, though.
you're going to have
Yeah.
people on the extremes who call bullshit. I mean, for example, 97% of scientists that study climate science thinks it's caused by humans. That other 3%, they're out there on the fringes.
Yeah.
And that's the reality, is that there's pretty much no such thing as a 100% consensus in
But they
science.
can't
That there
decide that it's way too fucking hot and we need to cool the planet off a little bit because it's fucking hot. And who cares why it is? But I have two little things left and we're running out of time. So we can stop the signal on a cell phone when we go in a movie, but we can't disarm a gun when it goes into a school or a Walmart. Would you feel about introducing technology that would disarm a gun like that? Like
best of
giving
luck
Like a
designing it.
biometrics.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying
good luck. Yeah.
if they dropped the lack of reforms for guns and made and regulated some safety measures into guns, would that be something you would agree to?
It wouldn't work. And the reason I say that is because once again, you're going to be relying on people to take what guns that they have,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
turn
yeah,
them
yeah, yeah,
over,
yeah.
turn them over to be retrofitted with this technology.
No, the new
And
guns. So this would be something that would work in
okay,
100 years when all the other guns failed and died. Right.
so not AK-47s is what
But we
you're
did the
saying.
same thing with cigarettes. We made them put fire rings because people were burning their couches. So
Well, and
would you be
that's
okay with putting some safety measures into guns if there was a way the manufacturer could limit their accountability by adding something? What kind of safety measures would be okay to add to a gun when we don't want a lot of technology in it to begin with? Because that's
Like
what
if you put
fails.
that kind of biometrics into a
Yeah,
hand cannon, a mini rail gun,
yeah.
what are those things called that they have out in the ocean that nobody's supposed to know about? Oh, never mind. I'm supposed to talk
Oh,
about
yeah,
that.
the
rail
Yeah,
death
guns.
rays. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
rail guns. Yeah, yeah. Then you go ahead and put that on that. That's fine.
Okay,
But dude, it's not going to happen anytime soon. And nobody's going
right,
to change the formula or the way weapons
Yeah.
are made. So
right.
I'm very opposed to it right now because we're not
Okay.
there yet.
See, I don't want to go and like have to defend myself, but realize iPhone has an update. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
Damn
right.
it! Like, yeah,
And that's the other thing is then you have the ability once again for people to hack it. So
yeah.
what
Right.
is
Holy
locking
shit.
what is locking the mechanism? Can it cause the firearm to go off? And in
Right.
which case then you're going to end up with a bunch of people shooting themselves because of a software glitch, and that's not going to help anybody.
Right.
Defeated the whole purpose.
So or it worked as intended. Take your
Ah,
pick.
yeah, yeah. Take your pick.
Okay. Wait, there was one more and I can't really remember what it is. So, is there anything that we didn't talk about? Oh, raising the age to 21 from 18.
Now,
Raising the age to 26.
I don't think you can
Those
buy any weapons now as a 21-year-old or an 18-year-old. You can't buy
you can buy a
semi-automatic weapons.
long gun, but you can't buy
Yeah.
like a handgun.
you can't buy a
Uh,
handgun. You can buy a long gun.
you can't buy an AR-15.
You can't
but
buy an
if
AR-15, but you can buy a hunting rifle. You can buy a shotgun.
yeah,
And I think that depends on the state, to be perfectly
Yeah,
honest.
it
In the state of
totally does because
Washington, yeah, in the state of Washington, so you have to be 21 to buy pistols. You have to be 21 to buy AR-15s.
hmm
But you can go out and buy a pump action shotgun. You can go out and buy a bolt action rifle
yeah.
at the age of 18.
You give me a
Um,
pump action. I want people to know I'm arming it, you know?
I mean, the
I
sound
want
of
them
that,
to hear that click, man.
the sound of that shotgun racking is unmistakable.
oh yeah,
Right.
100%.
I'm blind. You hear me racking my gun. Just get out of the way, whoever you are.
You just
Duck and
move.
cover. So I mean, you do,
Yeah.
but I think the biggest question that's going to get posed is when you look at the Second Amendment, it says a well-regulated militia.
Mhm.
So here's the problem.
But it also says you
What
can't infringe on the individual people too. So I'm okay with hearing that.
but it says necessary to the well-regulated militia. So here's the issue then, is that with each state's own laws, can you make the case that one state is well regulated versus another state being not well regulated? Can you make the case that what happens in all these mass shootings is, violence perpetrated by a well regulated militia?
Or an
And that's
unregulated, right?
or an unregulated militia. And so then I think constitutionally you're going to have the question arise, what does well regulated mean?
Mm, okay.
And I think that's going to be the biggest question that has to be answered.
Okay.
And what that might mean is that the average person without any training can go buy manual actions like shotguns, like bolt actions, but people who have gone through a specific amount of training or a specific amount of time are considered well regulated because they're trained, they've gone through the education process, and now are capable of owning. I really think what is going to determine Second Amendment rights moving forward at some point is going to be what is the definition of a well-regulated militia.
Okay. The Ninth Amendment says that the rights within this Constitution aren't the only rights we have. So I think the same thing that gives a woman a right to medical privacy is the same thing that gives a gun owner his right to have a gun, But I like that unregulated thing. Like, what you guys know how I feel, and it was always that, like, a guy should get a gun and then he should get training, but it should be a lodge, and that should be like a VFW group, like a lodge of people that create their own code of conducts and hold themselves accountable to their group's actions. And if there was enough people like that, it would, locally, you would know everybody, right? 100 people in your lodge, your kids, everybody, you're a family, you do these barbecues and hunting trips and everything together as a gun community, and you care about each other. I think what happens is when you make it 5 million people, we start caring about that 10,000, right? There's no community that's embracing them. If somebody would have embraced that kid, like any of these people months before they did this, that might have changed something. So I like the community aspect of it.
And you have to remember too, like the biggest issue is that with any laws that are created, there has to be some type of objective thing you can measure against in order for us to find out what is and isn't legal, what is and isn't regulated.
Right.
And that's the biggest problem is that subjective does not meet the criteria for law. Like,
right.
It never has.
However,
there's a lot of subjectivity. There's a lot of subjectivity in how an objective law is prosecuted.
And if we can't analyze it, any law is subjective. Right. All right. My final thought, I heard it on another podcast, and it was Ted Cruz wants us to have guns to protect us from a police state, but he wants to create a police state to protect us from the guns.
Well, if there's anything that we learned about what happened in Texas, the police state wasn't really all that interested in going into an active shooter situation.
He wants one door in and out of the school. He wants to arm the teachers. He wants to give them military. Has anybody seen 300? Do you know what one door with a shooter on the other side can be? A funnel point. You know what I mean? So. But it's
a fire hazard at best, unless you make that building out of fucking concrete.
Yeah, but 98% of gun owners want what we're talking about, just sensible, common sense stuff. Like,
common sense.
If you have a kid and you're worried about your kid, give a friend your gun to hold for a couple years. Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Put it in a safe.
Well, you can put it in a safe, but you just get it out of your house. If you feel that it needs to get out of your house, there's ways to do that. You don't have to give it away.
Come up with community storage options.
I love that idea.
Where communities are like, you know what, this is something that I'm going to store in an offsite location that I know is going to be monitored
and
locked, insured, all of this other stuff.
I want like a gym membership where I can have my gun storage there, and now I can have a bazooka and I can pull that shit out and I can use it there, but then I put it back. You know what I mean?
I'm just thinking about what the price of ammo for a fucking bazooka would be. Right. It just makes me want to shit.
But here's the
$1,500 around.
But here's the other thing.
Generous.
Jason can then take his bazooka out one day and offer the other members to use it. So they learn how to use it. It's a different way. But also, people don't like the idea because it's like how are you going to defend yourself if your guns are all off site, you know?
All I can think of is somebody fucking flagging the range with a goddamn bazooka.
Yeah. Let loose the cows.
Hey, Jason, what?
Oh, shit.
It was meat.
It's no hamburger.
They have meat, they have non-meat, and
More
they
like
have
pink
was
mist.
meat.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, wow.
I love you
That's-
guys. Thank you for doing this. I hate being that spot on, especially when we all haven't talked for a while. You know? What I
Yeah,
mean?
no shit, dude. Hell yeah.
So
Let's-
we gotta get you back on so that we can talk about your flying and everything like that.
Oh shit. Get some.
Because what I love about Adam is he is constantly improving his life. You know,
Got to, man.
there's
Got to.
there's doers and there's sayers, and doers get somewhere and sayers don't. So I love that you're a doer, bro.
Hell yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
send me a link for your podcast, please,
Fuck yeah, for sure.
because I'm having a hard time finding it on Apple.
I'm having a
or
hard time.
Spotify, or
I can't get them to communicate for whatever reason, so they're all over the place now. I mean,
Okay.
it's SoundCloud. They're in SoundCloud, but I mean, they sometimes they go into the feed for Apple. Sometimes they don't. I don't know how to fix that. I have no fucking clue.
Okay,
So-
we'll work on that then. Cool.
Hell
All
yeah.
right. I
Hell
love
yeah.
you guys. Did you have any last words, Jeffrey? I know we went a little long for you.
Oh, last words. You know what? I'm going to leave the last words to Adam because Adam has the right last words.
Nice.
Dude, I always say, hey man, everybody love everybody. God damn it.
I love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you, buddy.
Bye, Kai. Oh, bye. Wait, bye, friend.
Bye,
Bye,
friends.
Your friend was all over that shit. I love that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I gotta get this new fucking microphone to work. Something's going down.
There's
Yeah,
no
what the-
conversation like that out there. You know what I mean?
No, there isn't, and
No.
it needs to be had. And I mean,
Yeah.
people need to see that. And it's like for Jeffrey and I, we are avid gun owners, but we're not rabid gun
Right.
owners.
Right.
Uh,
Like
I
I
watched-
have no plans to expand my arsenal at this point.
Oh, I do.
Like I don't
I
like,
do.
I don't. I personally don't.
I want a
And
shotgun.
I think 300 is enough. You know what I mean?
300 is enough. Jesus Christ.
I
I
was
get two
watching.
hands.
I was watching the news, and this reporter shoved her camera in this like lady's face that just lost her kid, and she's like, "Are you mad?" And the mom's like, "I'm grieving. I'm sad." And she's like, "But aren't you mad at the police for failing?" And she's like, "I don't know right now. I don't have any information, and they protect us. I don't want to. I don't want to badmouth them." Well, they made mistakes, and I was like, "That's not what you should
That's
be
not
like, I'm so-"
reporting. That's
Right.
literally fucking badgering.
That's
Yeah,
telling them what to
exactly.
be mad at, and then
Yeah,
I was like, "No, that's not where it should be, right?"
that's horrible.
I hate
So
that.
horrible.
So I appreciate you guys for doing. What I'm gonna do is switch up and put this second hour first on Sunday, because by the time Thursday rolls around, somebody else might do it, and I want to do it first.
There you go.
All righty, boys.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you
again.
guys.
Hey,
Good to
Kai,
see you again.
Kai
love you
misses
guys.
both of you, by the way.
Oh, Kai.
She wants to have you both on her show. I almost sent you both messages last night, but I was like, nope, it's gonna be today. I'm not using it on Kai.
Yeah, anytime.
I'd definitely love to sit down and chat with Kai.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe next Saturday night then, because that's when she works second shift.
Oh, I'm gonna be hammered.
Nice.
I'll be around Saturday night.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a graduation. My nephew's graduating. He's
Yeah.
I'm super
That's
stoked, dude.
awesome.
Dude is just like, it's just amazing to see that kid, man. He's top of his class. He's going to St. Martin's. He's got a full ride scholarship for baseball.
Nice.
Grades are
Nice.
like
Right.
unreal. It's
Hell yeah.
And
Fucking
that's what
awesome.
sucks when we talk about 18-year-olds like an asshole that shoots kids, but there's good kids out there like that.
yeah.
You know? Fuck, I
Yes.
hate that.
6'1", handsome son of a bitch.
Mm.
Just fucking great upbringing. His mom and his dad talk. The step parents talk too. They're all really. It's just community, man. You know what I mean?
Community.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what-
If you're
that's what
having
we all need.
problems, shrink your community. You know?
exactly.
If you're having problems with shrinkage, community. Wait.
What?
It's
Figure it-
shrinkage.
figure it out.
Sorry. Seinfeld.